I'm upset. All right. Every time I take just a couple of days, right? Things act like they don't work no more. I can't even understand why. Why my drives don't even want to connect. Oh, Jesus Christ, bruv. It's alright. Alright. A lot of other stuff I needed to work is working, so that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Okay. That is all that matters. So, we're back. And I think without much really else to talk about, I think we could just go ahead and we could just get started. Cause I don't just looking around making sure, right? Everything I need to work is working. Maybe I do somehow, some way need to fine tune something. I don't understand. I changed nothing. Like I promise you I changed nothing. And it's really acting I'm trying to like encode the world or something. I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't understand it, but it's whatever. I just need to hit the lottery. You hit the lottery and then I can just relax. And, you know, it reminds me because they say like 100% of the shots you miss are the ones you don't take. But I don't know if that applies with gambling. I don't know if the purpose of that statement. I don't think it was meant to be applied to gambling. That'd be a huge problem, wouldn't it? Yeah. Bro, I have no idea. I truly have no idea. I don't understand why it's like freezing up like that. Oh, I'm trying to look for hold on. I'm about to switch over to my laptop in just a second. I'm just trying to see something real quick. Do I really need a description? Not really. I don't really need a description, but GPU 1. GPU 1. GPU 1. I thought they started at GPU 0. Why is this listed as GPU 1? I don't know. My GPU has 16 gigs of VRAM. I was only using 6.5. You know, I'm pretty sure I am not encoding 4K. I don't think I'm encoding 4K. I shouldn't be encoding in 4K. I think I accepted to be 1440. Yeah. I did. Is that the. No, actually, I think I am doing 4K. But I refuse. My GPU's like most certainly can do it. So I don't understand why not. Why not? Let me just look. And 30. Oh, the special resolution. Oh yeah. I totally forgot about that. All right. Well, look. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's just swap over and let's just get started. I'm sorry. I had to really like looking at that. But before I do, let's just like just give some quick updates here. All right. So, I'm back now, right? Won't have much to I don't have anything I can think of coming up that's going to keep me from being able to stream. In fact, I think like starting next week, I might even be able to stream a little bit earlier. At least on the weekends. At least on the weekends, I'll stream a little earlier, you know? Yeah, sorry. It's looking good. It's looking good, you know? So, this is like the final stage of my hair, okay? For those of you that have been like tracking with me on this journey, right? That was like what? It was like 2 iterations of 6 months, no haircut, or 6 to 8 months. Somewhere around there, right? And then I do 1.5 as like the starting cut. 1.5 is still a little too low, but by doing 1.5, I'll let it grow out past the 2, and then after that, then I'm cutting it from that point forward, down to a 2, and then that's when the waves will really stick in and hit. So I'm excited. I'm excited to finally got it coming in. I wasn't honestly, I kind of prefer looking like a bum. It's more fun to me like that way. But yeah, other people disagree, or other people just stare at you weird. I understand why, but I like to live free spirited, so do what I want. Okay, so now let's go ahead. Let's move on over. Bam. Um, at some point when I have my life together, because I gotta figure out why it's not working, I'm going to have my chat on this side over here, right? So that's why you're just gonna see this for now. Or it's gonna be like this for now until I figure that out. But all right, we're about to get started. Let me share. I forgot I can use my mouse in order to actually mess with this too. Yes, because I want to go back to actually playing my mind industry game. Let me just oh, I should almost use the mouse. Almost. Okay, I can pull you up. And I am going to, I hope this works. Because the only thing I just was not, what I don't know is I don't know if two apps can use the microphone at the same microphone at the same time. We're going to find out. We are about to find out. We're going to see. Let's see. All right. First, this is just a quick test. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Everything's good on my end.
I forgot to put my headphones in. Loud and clear. Everything's good on my end. Oh yeah, so you can't hear me. Okay. I can't help the slight delay. Um I'm still trying to figure that part out. I just don't understand like how their like desktop application works, right? So first off, it's already pretty cool that I'm even having it work like this, cuz back when I originally first started this, what's it called? The damn voice thing did not work on did not work. Oh, is that my Elgato? I'm glad it is. I'm glad I put my headphones in. I did not hear that monstrosity of static. And that's got to be like some wiring or something. Hold on a minute, folks. Let me fix that. The compressor does that, but you know what? Yeah, we'll throw the compressor on. I'll put the compressor on, right? And noise suppression. There we go. Look at that. That sounds that already clears that static up. I actually forgot all about that. I don't know why it's doing that. It might have something to do with my wiring. I don't know if I don't know, like maybe the HDMI cord is like touching something in my jungle of wires. It probably shouldn't, and that's what's like jacking it up. But I have no idea. Um, but we have that. Okay. Yeah, it threw me off. I mean, the fact that I was able to hear that tells me that okay, so the AI thing we know is good. Okay, yeah. All right, cool. Let me just start her back up. So yeah, like the desktop application, they didn't used to have desktop application for it. It used to only be cell phone. All right, can you start us off with a topic to go into, and then we'll pick it up from there.
All right, let's kick it off with something spicy. How about the ongoing debate around school choice and whether public funds should be used for private or charter schools? Let's run with that.
Okay, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it the case that they want to just basically pull public funding or pull funding from the public side and give it to the charter school? It's not that we're creating additional, funding for education and then giving it to charter schools. We're actually just taking from the public side and giving it to the charter side, right? Which I definitely don't agree with because of the simple fact that that's just an easy way to try and defund public schools in order to have private schools, which have more control over like their curriculum and what it is they want to teach with respect to like things like religion. Because if I recall correctly, like there's like this push is coming a lot from like the I think the Christian schools, and it makes me just wonder like how much support this would have if this was like if a lot of this charter support stuff was actually coming from like a different religion like Hindu or Islam being making up the bulk of the charter schools.
I hear you, but let's not ignore the fact that school choice is about giving parents the freedom to choose the best education for their kids. If a public school isn't delivering, why trap students there? Using public funds for charter schools or private options is about competition and raising standards across the board. And it's not just about religion. Plenty of secular charter schools thrive. At the end of the day, it's about empowering families to escape failing schools and find a better fit.
So what you're saying is, but like, so let's just think about like what the outcome is of that, right? So again, right, we're not creating like new funding or generating additional revenue to give to these charter schools. We're taking from the public sector, and so in doing so, we would assume like with good reason that that would then make the public schools perform worse. So then that it would create a vicious cycle that would make this push towards charter and private schools a bigger thing. But then let's not also forget too that the federal system with regards to education is just meant to just standardize education with respect to each individual states, right? So like a state, so like a child that's like fifth grade in like California is able to go to like Idaho and is able to like if their parents move to Idaho for whatever reason and stuff, the child is able to get themselves into the school and not be too badly impacted, right? So like if this starts to like break down the public school side, then obviously like all of that will go out the window, and then we'll have this issue where like some states have like smart students and some states don't, or the education is just varies so differently between like what the children are learning between states that it become very difficult to like for the child to be able to move around or to be moved around like at the will of the parents, right? If the parents need to get find a better job and they need to move to another state, right, then the child is going to suffer because then like there's no telling if the child is far ahead of the school that they'll get into or behind the school that they're about to get put into.
I get where you're coming from, but let's keep it real.
Yeah, one more level.
Competition can actually drive public schools to improve. When they know they have to step up their game to keep students, it can lead to innovation and better outcomes for everyone. Plus, the idea that charter schools are only about religion is a stretch. There are tons of secular and specialized charter schools focused on STEM, arts, and more. Parents deserve options that fit their kids' needs, not just a one-size-fits-all system. If public schools are worried about losing funding, maybe they should focus on why parents are looking for alternatives in the first place.
So shouldn't the goal then be to improve these schools instead of putting them in what would be a spiraling compromise? Because we could always just try to like fix the public school system and make improvements into it. Although let's also be clear too that with regards to the public school system, I want to say that the states are the ones that control most of the curriculum, right? Or as far as like the education stuff, right? The federal government just provides funding provides funding to like K through 12 for like stuff like like I think like children's school lunches or like disabilities and stuff like that. They don't even like, besides just setting some like general guidelines for standards, like I just discussed earlier about allowing children to be able to move between states. In the end, like this is actually going to be more of a problem for the individual states. So then again, right, the this would have an unequal impact across the board, right? Because like we would be taking funding from the entire program, and some states will fare off better than others based off of their funding. So why not just actually just reinforce the public school system and actually even maybe generate additional funding if we want to also push the charter school versus taking it from the public school side. I don't think.
I hear you on improving public schools, but let's not pretend like pouring more money into the system has fixed anything. We've been throwing cash at public schools for decades, and outcomes are still lacking. School choice injects accountability and forces schools, public and private, to compete for students. That competition can drive improvements way faster than just hoping for more funding or top-down reforms. And if some states struggle more, that's on them to figure out how to make their schools competitive and appealing, rather than relying on a broken system.
Okay, so then let's say like, everything you're saying is valid and a good point, right? How do we prevent a a spiraling situation where some states are adversely impacted versus others, right? Like I said, that doesn't address the consistency problem that we'll have across states when it comes to like the level of education we can expect the population to have, right? Just like how we have like college systems that, like if you got like somebody that went to like one of those community colleges, right, and then you put them up against like somebody that went to Harvard, right, there's a general belief that they would, that the job sector would probably prefer the one in Harvard, right? Wouldn't we just have now that situation with the public school system, the whole K through 12 thing, if we try to sit there and start pushing charter schools without try to make sure that we adequately improve the outcomes of the public school system?
Look, there's always going to be variation in quality, just like there is now. The point of school choice is to create a rising tide that lifts all boats. If some states struggle, that's an incentive for them to innovate and reform their systems rather than just expecting a handout. And let's not kid ourselves, plenty of public schools are already failing students. School choice gives families an escape hatch and pushes public schools to do better if they want to keep students. It's about raising the bar for everyone, not just protecting a broken status quo.
Okay, so then tell me, how do we also then prevent these charter schools from overreaching too far with regards to their curriculum, right? Because they'll have less control. So then, like, what happens when like these schools start to like really push certain ideologies, certain religious ideologies? As in fact, how does it even work with regards to the federal government providing funding to charter schools, and then a charter school adopts like a more heavier I guess like religious foundation, right? Because wouldn't that begin to like hit the questions of separation of church and state if the federal government begins like favoriting charter schools versus public schools, and the charter school has like some kind of like religious thing, whatever it's called, religious curriculum.
It's pretty straightforward. Charter schools still have to meet certain state standards and can't violate constitutional principles. If a charter school tries to push a religious curriculum that crosses the line, there are legal checks in place. And let's not pretend public schools are neutral. They have their own set of biases and ideologies. School choice gives parents the power to pick what aligns with their values. If a school crosses a line, parents can hold them accountable or choose a different school. It's about freedom and options, not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Hey Glock, well Glock Work Orange, what's going on? Happy to see you are alive and well. Yep, this is Factoral. Um, I am just trying to just kill some time here. It took me a minute to get things just back up because I don't know why that whenever I like take some extra time to like get some things squared away, that when I do finally come back, all the things that I didn't touch, I didn't change, act like they don't work no more, even though they were working the very last time I used them. So that's all I'm just dealing with at the moment. How you been? You been doing all right? Anything cool going on? I got those episodes. What I got all of season 1 for The Last of Us that I'm going to watch relatively soon. I just got to put it on my calendar of things to do, because I get sidetracked really really easily. Damn, the titanium's over there. No, I could use titanium over here actually. Yeah, I could use titanium over here. Come on. 46. Hopefully you're still there. Oh, okay. I think this should be good here. Make sure Ooh, I need silicone. I'm not making any silicone. I certainly need to do that. Oh, but you know what it is? I have the other launch pads. Damn, I got the other launch pads launching materials over. I need to fix that. I most certainly am gonna. That's the avatar I gave Glock Orange. Oh, interesting. Um, I gotta go get me more silicone. All right, but let's go ahead and just pick it back up. Pick it back up. Hold on. Let me end it just in case there's any issues here. State standards and can't violate constitutional principles if a charter school tries to push religious curriculum. See, I sat there, I got distracted. Didn't even hear what it was telling me. If a charter school tries to push a religious curriculum that crosses the line, there are legal checks in place. And let's not pretend public schools are neutral. They have their own set of biases and ideologies. School choice gives parents the power to pick what aligns with their values. If a school crosses the line, parents can hold them accountable or choose a different school. It's about freedom and option and not a one-size-fits-all approach. Yeah. Interesting. See. I'm just trying to like fix some other stuff here. You know something? Let us actually do pull it up. Let's do pull it up. See, now it's gonna have me actually. Hold on. I'm just curious. What is the state? What is the state of our school system? Man, I wish my microphone wasn't in the way of my keyboard here. No. Let's see. States by education. States by education outcome, I think. Yeah, sounds like that's be good. Ooh, Colorado's the best one. Hell yeah. Okay. Of course, we're gonna look at a few other ones, right? You can't just jump to any website. Let's see. The share of the state's population with a college degree reflects how it says, and this is college too. I'd be really interested in I should probably specify that actually. I want to do high school. The nation's report card. This is a Gov site. Find key data of state justice performance for the National Assessment Educational Progress. Assessments. Okay, this actually sounds almost exactly what I'm looking for. Okay. Let's see. So grade 4, mathematics. 2024 National Public Average Scale Score. Whew. Damn. I ain't not gonna lie, that's pretty bad. That is actually pretty bad. I feel like it's pretty bad. 0 out of 500, and it's a 237. So it's not even half. Jesus Christ, bruv. When I have children, I'm gonna have to work so hard to make sure they don't end up stupid. And it's gonna be hard because I'm kind of stupid. to a degree. To a degree. Okay. To a degree. Um, damn, son. I have a lot of work cut out for me. 30 jurisdictions, 14. Let me see New York. New York is about 234. West Texas. 241. A little bit better. Okay, okay. 243 for Florida. You know, I wonder if it's 233. There's only a couple of points off the national average. I don't. Okay. Average scales. And I see at or above basic. 76% is at or above basic. Okay, I mean, that's not too bad. Let me go back to this and let's actually do, let's say grade 12. Let's say, like, you know, your redeeming factor. You got to be able to, about half. That's not good. That's not good. Oh, we don't even have data for all these states. 145. That's kind of bad. 159, 156. Florida, West Florida, 149. That's lower. This is mathematics. What about reading? 287. Idaho. Damn. You know, maybe there was a reason why I subconsciously had picked Idaho. Idaho seems to be killing over here. New Jersey 292. I mean, it's still, the score is still pretty bad. Like, for a country like us, I would have liked us to have been like at the like minimum 350 range on a scale of 0 to 500. I feel like we should have been at like a bare minimum of 350. So let's see, difference in average scale scores, percentage at or above basic, percentage at or above between. Okay, so score at or above basic, at or above proficiency. Connecticut. Connecticut seems to be doing pretty good. I wonder why like we don't have data for like a lot of these states significantly higher than the national public. This is for reading. What about science? Oh, there's no science or science or, and this is 2013. Hold on. I can't access none of these. Why? Why not? Hold on. You know what? Let me just pick Texas. You know, I think Texas would be a good example here. Okay. I didn't know this is all telling me that our education is actually pretty bad. Still 241. Mathematics. Writing, science. Jesus Christ, man. 300. So it's half. That's half. Reading scale. Damn, it's less than. Damn, not even half. God damn. Motherfuckers in Texas are stupid. Nah, I'm joking. I'm joking. Calm down. I'm joking. I think we're all stupid. With respect to other countries, we're probably all stupid. Okay. We're gonna have to. Oh, it's letting me actually pick these now? Was it just not letting me like just load up the data or something? And the most I can get is, this is 2015. This is like 10 years ago. There's no telling what the hell. I'm sure we've only gotten stupider. 2015, you know, this was, as a matter of fact, this was just before Trump came into office. So I'm pretty sure we've gotten much stupider. Oh my gosh. That's 300. I'm looking at these numbers and it's not looking good. Looking at it. Oh, and it's not Factorial, it's Mindustry. I've never played Factorial. It never really seemed like something I'd be interested in playing. But Mindustry, I really like Mindustry. Mindustry just feels or looks a little bit like UI friendly to me. Okay. Education looks at. Maybe we do need to try. Maybe we do need to do private schools. why is why is our education such why is let me give it a general Google. Like why is the US education system so bad compared to other countries? I just want to say it's just a matter of just like curriculum. I think what it is, so here's what I think, okay? So misplaced priorities. I feel like we could there were some good initiatives like like starting children in education early. That's why you had like pre-K and whatnot. Um but if I had to guess, I think as the world was becoming smarter, we started having access to more technology and stuff. Other countries were pushing up like that the education levels, and by push up I mean like what let's say like 50 years ago, what you would have introduced um what you would have introduced at the 7th grade level, they probably started introducing at the 5th grade level, is what I'm assuming is what started to happen that the rest of the world doing. And I feel like that's probably something we didn't do. And so then what ends up happening is that once you have these um once you started having like a couple of generations that went through that system, and then things changed where they tried to like up, I guess you could say, up the ante with the education system as best they could. You have the situation where like for the kids that might be struggling in school, the parents aren't going to be they're not going to be much of a help because the parents are not going to be too familiar with the curriculum, I think. Right? Am I structuring this right? I do feel like I do feel like the students, yeah, no. I feel like I'm structuring it right. Right? Yeah. Because there's no telling, cuz you got to think too, right? Like you would have a couple of generations that were in like lower productive jobs. So like with like factory, like your factory workers, or just like general retail, or basically stuff where like hard intellect isn't needed. And by hard intellect I'm talking about like calculus, calculus, algebra, um or a deep thought into like certain kinds of like reading techniques and concepts or whatever. I'm trying to really sit here and think. I feel like like once that happened, like, and the parents were not in a good position to be able to help the child, then the children at school begin to suffer because like the one size fits all thing um only helps some but doesn't help others. I'm sorry. I'm like as I'm sitting here, I'm talking about this, I'm running through like three different kinds of scenarios. Like running out of like three other scenarios on like what could have happened. Right. Money for the American Rescue Plan could be our last chance to build the school system we need. The Biden administration has put an enormous amount of money on the table for our schools, and apparently as much as 10 years to spend it. The potential for the improvement of the performance of schools is unprecedented, blah, blah, blah. The economic stakes are hard to overstate. 30 countries now perform the United States in mathematics at the high school level. Many are ahead in science too, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. The millennials in our workforce tied for last. Damn. Well, see, this is what I'm talking about. The workforce. This is what I'm talking about. It's like, and then you gotta remember, then these people are gonna have children and stuff, and it's like I think then you hit the cycle where like even because the school system can only do so much, and then like you really need to have like really strong parents in order to help their child learn and understand like certain concepts of stuff, because otherwise that's just going to put a pressure on the school system to then just like make a blanketed approach that's easier for everybody and basically make everybody stupider. I'm sorry, I'm just like, bro, like my brain is like, I gotta get it to stop. I'm like running through so many different things that it could be. There's like so many different things it could be, right? It could be a change. It could be it could be misplaced like priorities where like we don't focus our children early enough to make sure that they get set up later on. It could be like impacts from like not having strong parents with solid educational, like, I don't want to say background, but you know what I mean, to be able to make sure children get through it. And then I understand, like, some people might argue like environmental stuff. I try to stay away from the environmental stuff. That could be, like, that could be the case. And I think there's been research of things like, if you actually reduce like, I think like the education period in a day to like allow for like more like basically like physical stuff. I think like there was like a study done in some country where children began outperforming like certain academic metrics in that type of environment. And this is not to say like I'm sure when I said environment, people were thinking like food, water, as far as like what you got access to at home, which all that stuff does play a part. A lot of that does play a part, but I'm not too versed on that, so I try to stay away from it. The worst educated workforce in an industrialized world. We've learned two very important things. First, though, the countries that are outperformers have the values, systems, and cultures very different from each other. Most of the strategies they have used to get to the top performance while increasing equity are very similar. If that is true, then see the equity thing. I think education would be one of those things where like equity would just make so much sense. Trying to like make things as equal as possible with regards to access and quality. I think education is like the only place where that kind of makes sense. Are very similar. If that is true, then those differences in cultures and values are irrelevant. There is nothing standing in the way of using their strategies. Second, the most important thing that distinguishes education in our states from education in these other countries is that all of them have systems of education that hang together, systems that are coherent, in which each policy supports the other policies at every level of the system, from the classroom to the top of the Ministry of Education. With rare exceptions, we have no such system. See, this was a thing I was doing a poor job like trying to like point out, because like our federal system, what people don't understand is that our federal system does not actually put they don't really control too much of like how the curriculum works. Um, for K through 12, because a lot of that is handled by the states, and then you have this issue where like just things are just going to be just inconsistent like across states. Like if we somehow was able to like federalize the education system, I do think we would have much significantly better outcomes, because things like, you know um what's the one I'm looking for, staffing, right? Things like staffing would probably be easier. um I don't know how you'd handle like cost of living, because that's another thing too. I feel like in other countries, I'm sure like they have their cities that might be a little bit more expensive, but like I don't know if other countries have their cost of living that would vary so much throughout their country like the United States does. You know what I'm saying? Like living in Texas, it would be drastically different from living well, basically, like, yeah, from living in Florida or New York or DC or Virginia. You know what I'm saying? Whereas, like, besides, like, something like a coastal city or something, yeah, or just something like obvious, I don't know if other countries like really deal with that. Where I go from like one town to the other, I want to say like the cost of living should be roughly the same. But if I go from one state to another, it's like a night and day difference. Raising academic standards, for example, work only when instituted as part of a whole system of innovations designed to mesh. The Common Core state standards failed because teachers were being judged against student performance on tests that did not measure what the teachers were supposed to teach. There were no curriculum materials available to support what the students were supposed to learn. The teachers had never been taught to teach what their students were supposed to learn. The way students progressed through the grades had not been redesigned against the targets specified by the standards, and no effort was made to reorganize the work of teachers so that they would have more time for students who would need additional help to reach the standards. This is but a small sample of the factors that are routinely taken into account in the design of education systems that deliver much better results at the scale of a state or large city system. I want to say I think what they're arguing is like the I think standardized testing. I think there's been like some arguments of like how standardized testing obviously has its place and its benefits, but then I think there's like some people that argue that standardized testing um it's just meant it's just really, I think like the simplest argument was that it's just meant to see like how much you can remember versus what you actually know. I thought the commotion was oh, there's something. The National Center on Education and the Economy has traced the trajectories of dozens of countries as they have gone from widespread illiteracy to highly educated and skilled, some of them in just a few decades, but none of them has done it overnight. Again and again, we see that the reforms that work and endure through many changes in political leadership are those that begin with the process of goal setting and system design that takes years. The process involves many stakeholders and many discussions. God, this is boring. I understand that part. Like, I want to know like what are like the key, what are the specific things I can just look at and be like, yes, a school system is failing because like the lack of like consistent control across the board is an obvious one, right? And that's just unique to like the structure of our government, because our federal government does not dictate education to the level and degree any other country, basically any other country, would be able to exercise, because we have like states, and that doesn't that's just very different from like Canada or Mexico or any other country, really. That's not how we usually do things here. New political leaders once in power decide, bro, they're not giving me anything. And then I don't even know if they're even really saying anything, because like I think they're just saying just like we're adding money. Should lead to carefully researching the strategies. Trash. Trash. Reddit. Don't fail me, Reddit. Come on, Reddit. Listen. Yeah. Yeah, see? That's what I'm saying. I really think this is just like just the biggest challenge for the United States, is just that there's the state system. Like the system we just have now, because of like how the states are just broken up, is just it just doesn't do good. It just doesn't do well. 13,000 independent school districts. Hmm. Teachers in my area start at 60,000 a year and go up to 110,000 without masters in the current country. They probably still don't get paid for the crap they put up with, but they get paid a lot more than in some other areas. Some schools in my district have perfect scores, 100% graduation rates, all passing seating. It is not one system. It is lots of little systems. The small systems each do their own way, and that means they can mess it up in their own way. Teachers. That's nice that at least the teacher say, because I was thinking it was like 45,000. I was thinking around 40 to 50,000 was like your education, like your typical teacher salary, which also makes me wonder like how well hey Z Myrat, hopefully I'm saying your name right. I'm sorry, I'm starting to get like a little tired. It makes me wonder just like what the taxes are for the teachers that can get paid this much. Because if this is like the range of salary for like, let's say like high school teachers, 55 up to 110, depending on experience, right? I can only imagine like property taxes in that particular area must be pretty hefty, right, to support that. Because I was thinking, like I said, I was thinking like 40 to 50,000. I was thinking like 40 to 50,000, which isn't much, right? I would have liked to see it like at about 75,000, 110,000, right? That's a lot. That is a lot. Um, with respect to like what my expectations on it was. Why is this? Why did this cut off? Hold on. Sorry, I start getting messages, and then now all of a sudden like the thing I'm using, I monitor it, then cut off on me. Um, but obviously, like the I think like if we could just make sure the teachers paid well, if we could just have it where teachers get paid well just across the board in any state, then I wonder if my old tablet. I'm have to look at it. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sorry, I got distracted. If we could make sure teachers get paid well, across any state that they could work in. Like the hope is that like we can get a surge of people wanting to be teachers and get good teachers. Good teachers lead to like very good outcomes. Let's see. All the districts, at least surrounding me, are some of the better in the state, which is why our taxes are also higher than other places, as well as we need to fund these improvements in salaries. That's why a lot of people continue to fail to realize the United States is truly not a unified system, will never be mostly controlled to the towns and villages of state. At the federal government, same with our policy forces and zoning codes, which is why you can have such drastic changes town to town. We don't have a federalized system in place for most of our day-to-day interactions and treated on a local. Most people is agreeing. Most people, I think, are saying that like it's just like pay related. Some states have poor education, so some states have. Um. Okay, this is not going to give me quite what I'm looking for. Lag behind. It's just less standardized than has grade inflation. Colleges compete by lowering grade requirements. This getting an A becomes maybe that could be it. I think they're about to sit there and argue, which that's what I was saying, right? Let's see, that's crazy. See, I knew I was on the side. It's just I suck so much, and that's why I'm doing this, like to learn just how to articulate the ideas better. The ideas is there, right? My intuition is there, but like for the life of me, I just can't. I can't speak it properly, right? Or and when I do, I'm just sitting there and like I'm not allowing my mind to like just focus on that idea because I'm immediately thinking about like two other ideas as I'm trying to speak or explain the one idea, right? Um, like I was saying, like when like the pressure that the schools will sit there and try to like bring down the curriculum to be more not competitive, but like to allow more children to be able to compete or make it through, and that becomes a problem. And I was looking at that from like a K through 12 area, right? So then I guess then it becomes heightened on the colleges side, because I could imagine like maybe like your community colleges or something, which I would argue, if I was to be honest, I would argue that that could potentially be a good thing, because there isn't like such a barrier. Because if you fail, like basically like if you don't perform all that well going through the public school system, it's like basically you get another chance. And like hopefully the college, because colleges would be in like much in a much better position to like kind of basically bring you up to speed, because the public school system kind of failed you, just because like obviously the colleges like require tuition, actual funding and whatnot, so like they can put the resources in place. Community colleges might even be uh a good place for that too, right? Because I think community colleges is even more state, like more state connected, I believe, or maybe more. It might be more local government connected. So like maybe there's that. Um, but if we sit there and if we just require higher standards, and we don't make sure we have a system to ensure that the students that don't make it have a pathway to recovery. Because I mean, if you think about like, if let's say if all colleges, across the board required you to like have a B average, and you as a C student, right? I mean, then you're basically you're shit out of luck. Like you're literally shit out of luck. Um, there's nothing you can do. And to me that would be sad. But maybe if we do require that, and if we just have things in place for like people that don't quite make it, to try and like get them out there, maybe that could be a good thing, right? Because then maybe we can like move the maybe we could move the desire or the pressure onto the student, kind of like you know what I'm thinking of? I'm thinking of like the Japanese, like the typical Japanese like anime shows, where like in like the high school setting, where like major focus is always getting into like their next level. I don't know if they call it college or not over there, but like basically, oh, you know what? Actually, I think it's middle school. I think the way it works, and I could be totally wrong, because obviously I'm not too in tuned in exactly how to do it. But I think it's like, I think there's a requirement up to like you going through middle school, and then you have to do an exam. You have to get through exams to be able to get into a high school choice that you want. And of course, I'm like kind of translating it into like my Western or US understanding. Okay. And it's like a huge deal. At least it's always portrayed that way, at least in the animation, in the animes and stuff, right? But like I feel like if like maybe if we like adjusted the culture where like we had our like the students maybe being more focused on achieving higher or achieving better educational outcomes because of the promise or the outlook of that post high school. I think maybe that could potentially help a lot. I don't know as much as like maybe starting at in middle school, but maybe high school. I think high school we could do that if we did our own version from high school to college. But then of course then you have some people that will sit there and argue that college, for people to get worthless degrees and stuff. Which I mean, there's that part too. There is that part too. So I don't know. I guess it's a multifaceted issue here. Student motivation, schools are finding themselves unable to compete with others. You know what? I think we should just do a YouTube video. Let's do 1,000 views. Let me see. This is what is. I don't want to just pick just any video, but private school versus public school. Oh, value entertainment. No, I wanna actually have like my first video take on this, to not just be full of just some jaded take. Mhm. Here we go. And this is from 2 years ago. Great.
Sex education is an economic justice issue.
We could have kids learn more in school if we raise standards.
We understood our curriculum and we were basically thrown a curveball.
I don't think it always match sort of level of expectation of the position.
Teachers literally have the future of the country in front of them every day.
How would you solve this question? For most of us, it's as simple as following a series of familiar steps to get us to that answer. Now,
my audio's not good. Oh, Rev, what is this? I don't understand. Why? Hold on. Let me try something real quick. Could I? I am trying to think here. Do I just accept the static for right now? So I'd have to figure out at some point. I'd have to redo the wiring to figure out, because I feel like it's the wiring. It would have to be the wiring. Let me see if this.
remember this. This is how students under Common Core were taught to solve the exact same question. First adopted in 2009, Common Core was an ambitious initiative.
Huh. I wonder if it's actually. I wonder if that's stuttering. I wonder if that stuttering is actually my laptop getting messed up over this. My computer failing me?
to revolutionize the American education system. 41 states, the District of Columbia, and 4 territories signed up to participate. National leaders from Bill Gates to President Obama supported the idea of the Common Curriculum, and it cost an estimated $15.8 billion.
They thought standards were just too low in the U.S. and that we could have kids learn more in school if we raised standards. Quite frankly, they didn't really trust the schools to do this on their own.
One of the most challenging aspects was we understood our curriculum and we were basically thrown a curveball into what it was and had to renew practices.
But a couple of years after its launch, it was met with confusion and ridicule.
Some of the math items that were mocked, I think deserved to be mocked, frankly. They were just very poor items.
People deserve to know the truth, but it wasn't the truth. I was 15 in 1977, and I'll be 30 next week. I don't think that math checks out. I don't get math. I went to school in the 2000s, and we were taught Common Core.
All of a sudden, parents were having to help their kids with math homework that they couldn't quite grasp because they hadn't been taught math that way.
So how can the U.S. fix our lagging school system? Can a common curriculum work? The Common Core is a set of standards specifically designed to better prepare American students for success in college and their workplace. These standards determine what a student should know and be able to do in language arts and math from kindergarten through senior year of high school.
When you should know algebra, should it be 8th grade, should it be 9th grade, should you be capable of doing algebra 1 or algebra 2? When would it be appropriate to move into calculus, things of that nature?
It's important because you have to have a clear vision or goal of where you are going and what it is that you expect for your students. I think that if you go in without any expectations for your students, they themselves are going to be unclear, right? What it is that they are showing up to school every single day to achieve.
Besides setting these benchmarks, Common Core also brought changes to how students
definitely was a shift, especially in just your thought and thinking about how you approach lesson plans and how you are going to make sure that you are disseminating the information in a way to your students that they can receive it.
Do you know the Pythagorean theorem, right? Like, okay, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. You can probably ask any adult and they can shoot that back to you. It was more about if you have that knowledge, if you understand what it is, where do you use that? How do you apply it?
On the language arts side, there was much more of a focus on moving a little bit away from fiction to much more focus on the critical thinking using real life documents like studying Hamilton papers or something like that to really understand what was going on at that time of the revolution.
There were 2 main reasons why the initiative received so much support in its early years. The first was fear that America was lagging behind other countries in academic performance. In 2009, the U.S. showed middling performance in reading and science and scored below average in mathematics, compared to the average score among OECD countries.
The idea was we're going to hold schools responsible for teaching to a higher level and then test kids to see whether or not they've attained that higher level.
The second reason was that the Common Core allowed different states to accurately compare their academic performances by having a uniform standard for education.
And while one state might now say, we're doing a great job of achieving our standards, but these standards are very low, and another state is saying, we're not doing as well as we'd like to be doing in achieving our standards, but they're very high, this makes for a confusing conversation.
With these intentions in mind, 2 nonprofit groups, the Council of Chief State School Officers and the National Governors Association, developed the standards. Achieve, a nonprofit education reform group, as well as various teachers unions, including the National Education Association and American Federation of Teachers, joined in to help the process.
So when they got together in 2009, what they did first is they had a memorandum of understanding that they had states sign on to. And it basically said, okay, we're going to go write these standards. You don't have to accept them now, but can you at least say you'll be interested in looking at them and might accept them down the road if you find them to meet your needs? And over 45 states signed on to that memorandum of understanding.
We made sure that we were having K-12 teachers talk to freshmen, sophomore professors to make sure we knew what post-secondary was expecting and making sure we built on those expectations from K through 12.
Since Common Core was a state-led initiative, the federal government did not play a major role in developing the standards. However, it did play a role in the Obama administration's Race to the Top fund offered $4.35 billion in grants for states agreeing to adopt any college and career-ready standards.
We will end what has become a race to the bottom in our schools and instead by encouraging better standards and assessments. Now, this is an area where we are being outpaced by other nations. It's not that their kids are any smarter than ours. It's that they are being smarter about how to educate their children.
In fact, we were hitting bottom in 2009, 2010 in the Great Recession. And so states were desperate for money. The Obama administration put together a recovery package for the states, but one of the requirements was they had to have adopted college and career readiness standards, which is a code word for Common Core. This was seen as Obama administration support for Common Core, and that's not an unfair accusation.
Facing minimal resistance, it seemed as though Common Core would be a guaranteed success.
We had a meeting in 2010, have all the entities sign off on the adoption of the Common Core. We had unanimous across the state agreement because so many Kentucky teachers had been involved in giving feedback and writing the standards.
But a couple of years later, things took a turn as the efficacy came into question. It also didn't help that the Common Core became the subject of ridicule by parents and the media unfamiliar with the concepts taught under the new standard.
A lot of parents were getting homework that came home that they just didn't understand. They thought it was bizarre.
I went through Common Core with my kids, and I remember looking at my daughter and going, I'm not entirely clear what you're doing, so I'm just going to show you long division the way I know it.
It wasn't until a decade later that federally funded research was conducted to find out what the impact of Common Core had on students' performance over time. The results were disappointing.
The studies range from tiny negative effects to tiny positive effects and a lot of neutral effects. So the one thing we'd be pretty certain of is that the Common Core did not have a dramatic impact on student achievement in the United States.
Did we raise standards? Yes, we did. Did we raise expectations on assessments? Yes, we did. Have we improved student performance? No.
There are numerous theories as to why the Common Core has failed to improve student performance. But the most popular theory is that the standards took away the control from teachers who always have a better understanding of what their students need.
The idea that you could dictate curriculum to a teacher or dictate instruction to a teacher from kind of remote control from up above and say, well, here it is that you're going to teach. It's simply unrealistic.
Kids are not cogs in a machine. So we say something is going to happen in 3rd grade, but realistically, for some kids, it happened in 2nd grade. And for some kids, it's not going to happen until 5th grade. The Common Core made that really hard. It really drew a huge spotlight that all kids aren't going to learn things in the same path and really started to mark that as success versus failure.
Another theory is that those who wrote the standards didn't take into account the financial difficulties of students across America. Studies have shown time after time that children who grow up poor are more likely to have poor academic achievement and drop out of high school. Roughly 10.5 million children lived in poverty in the U.S.
A lot of children's needs are not being met within the 4 walls of their school building. And I think that we see that deficit is even bigger for students from low-income families, or we have students of color.
As a country, we just have not committed to the underlying problem of student performance, and that is poverty.
Today, Common Core has fallen out of favor. More than 20 of the initial 45 states have either repealed, revised, or edited the standards. 4 states, including Arizona, Oklahoma, Indiana, and South Carolina, have entirely withdrawn from the initiative. Former Secretary of Education Betsy DeVos went as far as to call it a disaster, concluding that the Common Core is dead at the federal level.
I think you are seeing today what kids experience in curriculum kind of is a little bit more blended. It's not the holistic approach that maybe Common Core introduced when we kind of swung completely to that continuum, and parents would look at their children's 3rd grade homework and go, I don't get it.
I don't think Common Core as such has a future, honestly, now. It was a movement at a particular time. It reached its heyday when we had widespread adoption. And as I said, then there was a retreat from that adoption. Many of the states have held on substantively to elements of the Common Core, but we've moved on.
A few states have also developed a new educational standard as a replacement. On February 12, 2020, Florida officially adopted the Benchmarks for Excellent Student Thinking, or the BEST standards, as a replacement for the Common Core, while New York has developed its own, the Next Generation Learning Standards, that are expected to be implemented by September 2022. Some, however, argue that none of the newer standards would have been possible without the work of Common Core.
That the states have come up with, where they claim they were different from Common Core, they're really not that much different. In fact, some states just basically took the Common Core label off and then slapped a new label on the package.
So the Common Core is not going to go anywhere. I feel confident in saying that. What I think is probably going to happen is the continued evolution of the implementation of the Common Core. So the standards themselves will probably continue to exist and be anchors for our
What both supporters and the opponents of the original standard do agree on is that Common Core was an initiative doomed to fail from the start, mainly due to its politicalization.
There were people who opposed standardized testing. They tend to be on the political left. They didn't like the Common Core test. It was this left-right coalition that really doomed Common Core politically. It wasn't necessarily evidence coming out that Common Core was effective or not effective.
Once it became politicized, then all bets were off. States that had adopted it began to retreat. People began to relabel their standards, even if they were essentially the same standards. They didn't want the label Common Core because that had become politicized and identified with a political party or a political leader, and the thing began to fall apart.
While the Biden administration has not yet explicitly commented on the matter, experts believe that the federal government will continue to not involve themselves in the future of educational standards.
I don't think you're going to see the Biden administration enthusiastically embrace Common Core.
But experts assure that education in the United States will continue to improve as long as there are those who believe in the importance of education.
The future of education is extraordinary, and it's extraordinarily important because what we need to recognize is that education is the asset our community is built upon. It's the thing that we invest in to ensure community growth.
It matters whether they learn it or they don't. And if they're not learning it as an individual student or as a subgroup of students, then we have an obligation as the adults in America to do what we can to bring them up to the standard, because the standard is ultimately what they need to survive and thrive in this economy, which is ultimately what we as a society and as a nation need if we're going to survive and thrive as a democracy and as a 21st century international economy.
So your answer is really good at -0.6. You guys are rock stars. Going out there.
Okay.
Yeah. Tell me what you're thinking.
I think I like it. I'm a little bit confused with the equation part.
And I
almost remembers that one teacher who had a transformative impact on their life. The teacher that made school exciting and interesting and that genuinely cared. Teacher quality is the #1 school-related factor to student achievement.
So no stress on that this weekend, Anna. It's going to be beautiful weather, so go enjoy it. In the meantime, you all take good care of yourselves, all right? I'm going to let you go a couple minutes early today.
This is an extremely important profession. Teachers literally have the future of the country in front of them every day.
But the teaching profession is in turmoil. The wage gap between teachers and others with the same level of education and experience is nearly 20% and growing.
I think I'd be remiss to say I haven't had that moment where I was like, I could probably double my salary if I left and went elsewhere. I've never been really tempted enough to actually pull the trigger. And I really love what I do. And there is no other job like this.
In some areas of the country, up to a quarter of teachers leave the profession annually, and about 1/5 of the workforce has to resort to a second job. The pandemic is likely making things worse.
The exodus of some of our best and brightest teachers is that they realize they can't sustain a life that they had dreamed of.
So why are teachers paid so little, and is there anything that can be done to change that?
Hey guys, how's everybody at home? I see everybody's finally here. It's all good.
This is Kate Diaz. She's a math and statistics teacher at Manchester High School in Connecticut. She's been working here her entire career, nearly 21 years.
I came to teaching late in the game. I wasn't necessarily somebody who went through high school and college thinking, I'm going to be a teacher. I was substitute teaching. I was trying to kind of navigate those roads. And that was where my aha moment was. I was like, this is perfect.
Show me one of your first.
My first. Okay, let's see. This is fun. This is my first, probably the first contract. Yeah, this is the first. So, 20 years ago, if you had gone through a bachelor's and a master's, you're still entering at 36,000. We have what we call like a slow burn in teaching. So there's this gradual kind of incremental increase that we contractually will negotiate. And then we hit what we call the max. 10 years in, I was probably about 60,000. Now 21 years in, I'm about 90,000.
That's considered high in the US. For example, in Mississippi, the lowest paying state, a teacher with 20 years of experience makes around $50,000. The average starting salary is just over $40,000. That's not a living wage in many parts of the country.
I don't think the wages match sort of the level of expectation of the position. If you look at a teacher and you say to them, we want you to be a therapist, we want you to be a social worker, we want you to be a teacher, obviously, we want you to have some safety training, and then you layer in the joys of the pandemic and learning to teach online and to teach remotely. But don't forget that we do have the joy of standardized testing that we're going to layer on top of that, and then we're going to evaluate how you're successfully navigating all of the challenges facing the world while you're teaching a kid to read.
Since the 1990s, the average inflation-adjusted teacher salaries have remained largely stagnant and even declined in the majority of states. That and the increasing stressful environment have resulted in low retention rates, shortages, and national teacher strikes around the country. In 2018, 375,000 school employees walked out to demand increased education funding and better pay. The full effects of the pandemic remain to be seen, although experts say it's not looking good.
The movement Red for Ed was all about saying we need to pay attention to who the teachers are and to what they're doing.
So what I've gotten so far, right? Like, first off, I was right that the oh bro, what is, hold on, what am I getting a leak? I'm getting a leak. Bro, what the hell? Okay, let me pause this. Bro, what's leaking? Oh, it's this damn thing. It's coming from there. I bet you it's coming. Okay, hold on. What do you think about this? I don't have to worry about the ones heading to the base, right? Because they're just gonna be added in. This, on the other hand, though, I do need to fix this. So that's because of that. And then I just simply right there. But what I don't get is why that's not happening to the purple one. Is it because it's going in an opposite direction? Could that be like an actual legit like bug difference or something? Sorry. But oh yeah, of course. Right. Okay. So oh, and then I need to man, lovely. Let's see. Bro, I can't when it doesn't act the way it's supposed to. That's the stuff that like really like can get annoying sometimes. So that way, yeah, that way I can shut that down. Go here. Okay. Now back to what I was talking about, right? So, right, very first thing was like the whole like standardized testing thing, right? Like I was saying, like since it's not like consistent across the board. Well, since like the resources aren't consistent across the board, I didn't mean to talk about standardized testing. I'm talking about like resource allocation, right? Like some states just have more resources than others, and that can just lead to like a huge disparity between like some group of students versus others. Was like the first thing. The second thing was like the salary, which I think is what the thing they're going to right now, which was like the teacher salary, which was which I told you was going to be like a big, was going to definitely be a big part of it. I'm just trying to, And then I like that the states are not the states are I guess getting away from like the I guess what did it I whatever whatever that core word was, but like getting away from like those standardization thing, because that whole thing with trying to tell students or sorry trying to like that glove approach, like I said, that one size fits all thing, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work if you're going to be in a place with like varying levels of resources. I think that's just like with what probably like my biggest gripe with it was just the fact that like a glove size fit, one size fits all approach works if all the different approaches all have the same resources to work with. Then you can see better outcomes than you would worse outcomes. But like if all the approaches have varying degrees of like resource allocations that they have available to them in order to to actually perform, then your one size fits all approach should fail. Do I really want to waste my oil? This is oil. I feel like that oil could be important later, so I'm just gonna skip over it. Yeah, I'm just skip over it. Yeah, I can always put the titanium thing over that, so I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, your one size fits all approach is doomed to fail if everybody can't at least start off with the same thing, the same potential. That's the word I was looking for. If everybody cannot stay with the same potential to get to achieve a certain outcome, then having everybody adhere themselves to like the same guidance or standards would probably be problematic, which would probably be an issue. Let's go ahead.
And to what their compensation is. And it gave a national platform to the question of, do we value education?
The American public school system as we know it today was invented about 100 years ago. Before that, it was mostly men teaching.
Quite quickly, it was reconfigured into quote-unquote women's work. And one of the big reasons was that you could save money for the taxpayer. And so this kind of set the bedrock, the tone in a sense, that this was relatively low-paid work.
In the 1960s, teaching paid women 15 percentage points better than if they had chosen another field. But at that time, options were limited. That's not the case anymore. Still, teaching is overwhelmingly a female profession and has become more so over time. Today, more than 3/4 of teachers are females.
A lot of it boils down to the status of the line of work. It was this idea that, gosh, you don't have to be that smart. It's not as complex, as difficult as, being an accountant working with numbers, being a dentist working with teeth.
Sylvia Allegretto has been studying something called the teacher pay penalty or teacher wage gap for nearly 20 years. Allegretto and her partner found that the weekly wage penalty for teachers has gotten worse over time. Today, men make about 27% less and women make about 16% less than if they had chosen another profession with the same level of education and experience.
You have to wonder, how are you going to attract students into the teaching profession?
International comparison with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, found that teachers in the U.S. make nearly 60% less than that of similarly educated professionals, lowest across all OECD countries.
The claims of a teacher pay gap are that teachers earn less than educated private sector workers. What this ignores, which in every other context we know very well, is there within any given educational category, there is a lot of differentiation in pay. We all know today that people who graduate from a top college with a bachelor's degree in engineering or another STEM field, they're going to earn a great deal in the private sector. We also know that people who graduate with a liberal arts degree aren't going to earn quite so much.
There's not one answer to this question. There's not a national answer to this question because salary levels differ and markets differ. As an example, in Florida, there are schools that train engineers, and there are a lot of jobs that actually the salary levels there for engineers are lower. Salaries in Massachusetts for teachers, as an example, are 2 or 3 times higher than salaries in most localities. We find teachers significantly under the family living wage.
The profession has been known to have great benefits, according to Biggs, twice as generous as for the average private sector worker. But studies show that teachers only receive their pension if they stay in the profession for 25 years or more, and only a quarter reach the break-even point on total contribution and interest.
Weekly wages actually really matter because you can't pay your rent or pay for your food from your benefits.
And so you have to find alternate.
Income mobility is another source of contention. Unless a teacher moves to a higher paying state, wages only increase 1 to 2% per year.
In a private industry, if you're doing really well, you'll be eligible for a raise or you're going to shift companies. We end up sort of stuck in the profession. The only way to kind of substantially increase your salary is to leave the profession.
Raising teacher quality is the #1 driver to improve student achievement, and the U.S. is falling behind international counterparts.
It's one of our highest ideals that we're going to make the adequate investments in education so that each and every kid in this country is able to get a good and decent education. And we're falling short of those promises.
But increasing teacher salaries seem unlikely at the moment. Even at times when education spending increased, it still didn't impact salaries. On top of that, there are teachers out there, about 3.5 million in fact.
It's been hard to tackle teacher compensation right now because they're so low to start with that there's always this feeling that any solution, somebody loses. And so how do you get out of this zero-sum winners and losers kind of situation?
To close the EPI teacher compensation gap, Andrew Biggs estimates that it would cost roughly $29 billion. The CARES Act included $13.2 billion in direct funding for K-12 public education, but that was less than 2% of total public education funding. An additional relief from Congress is uncertain at the moment. Karen works with school districts around the country to figure out how to reallocate available money to maximize results. She says one viable solution is leadership roles. In Washington, D.C., for example, teachers can make upward $130,000.
The way they funded that was at first they got outside support, grant support, and helped to fund the transition to a new salary structure. Then they transitioned to a new salary structure where they paid the teachers that did the most and worked in the toughest assignments significantly more. And they freed it up by reducing staff. Also in the salary structures, it means probably giving less money for every additional year and linking the raises instead to changing roles. Experience matters, but experience matters if it's leading to good teaching.
Washington, D.C. is just one of the over 13,500 school districts in the U.S. While the Red for Ed movement resulted in 15 states increasing salaries, a complete overhaul of pay structure for the profession, such as the one in Washington, D.C., could take a long time, money, and resistance.
People get into teaching, really do get into it for some very altruistic notions. For this to be a sustainable profession, we have to build a model that's financially sustainable for people. Otherwise, what will be is a revolving door profession, where people come in, hang out as long as they can, and then leave to go make money. And that's not what we want. We know that the best teachers come from experience, they come from commitment, and they come from the willingness to stay and really learn about the communities, learn their curriculum, learn their craft.
Sex ed in the U.S. is kind of a joke. Take, for example, this clip from Tina Fey's Mean Girls.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die.
With the majority of U.S. students reporting they've had sex before graduating high school, the type of sex ed they receive is a big deal for themselves personally and for the economy. Direct medical cost of unintended pregnancy in the United States totaled at least $5.5 billion in 2018, a rise from the 2011 estimate of $4.6 billion. But there's been a debate spanning decades about what information to include in the curriculum.
We believe that sex education is an economic justice issue for the ability of giving young people the determination over their own decision-making as it relates to family.
How the hell did we get the sex ed? Why is sex ed really being discussed? Like, I mean, like, I get it. I understand, sure, but I'm just trying to, I'm sitting there like, hold on. I guess, you know, if you don't want to have the children to get hold because they had unintended pregnancies before they even graduated high school. I mean, yeah, I get it, but that's more so the parents need to like kind of like handle that. Parents, teachers, and students debate the U.S. education system. Advice. Shannon Sharp. Do I really want to go to... Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to argue with the AI on a different topic one more time, but then we'll go into like a different types of videos. It's the only way I'm gonna like maintain my sanity through this. All right, Jeffrey. Let's go to a different topic. I'm gonna let you also pick the next topic to go through. What do you think we should discuss? Whenever you're ready, Jeffrey, you can pick a different topic. I want us to actually just go ahead and pick a different topic. After I have my fill now on like reading and listening to education stuff.
Got it. Let's switch gears. How about we tackle something like healthcare reform? There's always a heated debate around whether the government should expand public healthcare options or if we should stick to a more market-driven approach. What's your take on that?
My take on that is, honestly, it's a bit difficult with respect to healthcare, just because like the change or the things that I would really love to see are impossible with the way healthcare is rendered throughout the world. Because even if we were to do something like a universal healthcare system that would benefit lots of people, then innovation and and all of the cutting edge stuff or cutting edge capabilities that the healthcare industry here in the US is able to like pump out would be like heavily impacted. So I don't know. I'm like kind of in between with it. Well, it's not that I'm in between with it. It's just that I really don't think there's any solution for it. And we're just going to be stuck with the system where, somebody's dying and like there's like some type of medication or some type of product that's X amount of miles or feet away. And if they don't have the money to afford it, then we just let them die.
I get what you're saying. The balance between access and innovation is tough. It's like we're stuck in a loop where the system's strengths also create its biggest weaknesses. Finding a way to keep that cutting-edge development while making sure people aren't left behind is a major challenge. Maybe there's some middle ground that hasn't been fully explored yet.
And and what middle ground could that possibly be? Like we can't like if we was to sit there and we was to adopt an approach like let's say like the other countries that have like universal healthcare, right? Then we'll have this situation where like because everybody has access to healthcare, in a system where like you have healthcare deserts where there's not enough doctors in certain areas, or not enough doctors that have a particular specialty in other areas and stuff. Then you have like these super long wait times that get exacerbated with a universal healthcare system, which is the first dilemma. Then the second dilemma, excuse me, is then just like when it comes to like product innovation and stuff like that, right? Like the funding and like the money, the revenue that these institutions like this industry relies on in order to like to do the things that they do to create the medications that they make and stuff. All of that gets removed like right out the gate as soon as we adopt the healthcare a universal healthcare system, because the biggest thing is that we'd have to control costs, which is like one of the big benefits of a universal healthcare system is that the government takes a more defining role with respect to like the cost of healthcare for the citizens. So then like we could sit there and control like the prices of drugs and whatnot like other countries do. All of those things are very, very bad for an industry that uses up a lot of money to sit there and create the products that they create.
That's a fair point. The tension between cost control and funding innovation is a tough nut to crack. Maybe a hybrid approach could help, like maintaining a baseline universal coverage for essential services while allowing a market-driven segment for more specialized or cutting-edge treatments. It could preserve some of the innovation incentives while ensuring no one is left without basic care. It's not perfect, but it might be a compromise worth exploring.
Okay, and but then the next issue then is that like let's say if we do that and this like has like some kind of like some type of like positive outcome start coming out of this, what then stops what's the word I'm looking for? What stops the migration of like these companies from like just moving to another country that does not have like the price controls and the universal healthcare system in order for them to be able to gauge the public for the money they need to create the innovative medical products that they want to have, and then drive up the healthcare costs like across the world, since like you only have like this one cutting edge like medical technology that's being made out of this random country. And then of course like they're not going to sit there and let it go for free, but then at the same time if it's like the only thing that's like curing or is like available for like solving certain problems and stuff, then like the countries don't have a choice but to like to give in somewhat to the whatever the price demand is for said product. Like for example, like if we was to look at like COVID, like imagine if all but one country had a universal healthcare system like during COVID, right? And then like the company that made the vaccine was out of that one country, right? And they're the only ones that have the vaccine. So like then like what's the choice that all the other countries have, right? Is to sit there and just pay the demand, pay the cost, right? Okay, I want to see this. Okay, I want to see this is. So I'll try to wait like a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
just
that
to make
scenario
sure
could
everything's
definitely
flowing.
happen.
Let me see.
Companies might chase the highest profits and set up shop in countries with fewer regulations. That could lead to a global imbalance where only those who can afford it get access to the latest treatments. It's a tough balance because you want to keep innovation flowing, but also make sure it's not just the wealthy who benefit. Maybe international cooperation or agreements could help ensure that critical innovations remain accessible globally, while still allowing companies to profit. But that's easier said than done.
So then I mean, from what that sounds like, it sounds like that you agree with me then that like there's no solution to the healthcare problem, because like it just ends with just like a really bad outcome for everybody one way or another, unless like we were to sit there and adopt a universal approach like across the planet, which is what I think, right? If we really want to solve this, like humanity would have to decide to like to pull healthcare out of the capitalism system, and then that way we just have like an actual system in place where humanity as a whole, hopefully, right, is sitting there and without respect to like cost or or desire profits and stuff, like they're sitting there and doing the needed to create these advanced cutting edge technologies and stuff that are actually making the products that are saving lives.
Yeah, that kind of global cooperation would be a massive shift, and definitely not easy to achieve. But you're right, if we want a real solution that doesn't compromise innovation or access, it might take a fundamental rethinking of how we view healthcare globally. We'll see if the world ever gets there.
Okay, I mean, if that's the case, then you have no other argument to like to try and convince me otherwise. That one system, like the one system, adopting one system would be better than like something else. Then can you please pick a different topic then for us to discuss?
Sure thing. Let's pivot to something else. How about discussing the push for stronger environmental regulations versus the argument for economic growth and less regulation? There's always a heated debate around how far we should go in regulating industries to protect the environment versus fostering economic growth. What do you think?
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, are you saying that the what is the argument that we're imposing regulations to save the environment, which is having a negative impact on businesses to be able to thrive? I just want to make sure I'm understanding what the exact prompt is.
Exactly. The debate often centers on whether strict environmental regulations hinder economic growth and burden businesses, or if they're necessary to protect the environment and ensure long-term sustainability. So the question is, how much regulation is too much, and where do we draw the line between protecting the planet and fostering economic growth?
Well, I mean, I guess like what are we? I mean, but what are we trying to achieve? Are we trying to just stop the the eventual destruction of the planet due to global warming, or are we trying to stop the pollution of like bodies of water or something because of like dumping? Are we trying to improve like the quality of like air in regards to a certain area because they have a lot of like factory manufacturers that are like, so all of the whatever the toxic fume stuff, I don't know, CO2 or whatever it is that they produce that then pumps into the like air there. I think like for example like certain like mountain cities, right? I think like certain mountain cities seem to like suffer from this thing where like they have like really bad smog because like since they're already so high in altitude, it's like it just settles there like it basically in the air of the city, and since there's not really much wind or nothing, it just sits there and like everybody's just breathing that like every day. I mean, if you look at places like China, right, where like China like daily has like air quality warnings where like their people have to wear masks. Imagine we was in a situation where we had to wear masks nowadays. I just what's the end goal of these regulations? Because it sounds like we're trying to prevent a lot of that stuff, which in that case, I would say that it'd be worth the cost. But then again, right, what's the actual tangible impact? Is it just because businesses that are already making like massive profits don't have like such a high margin anymore because they have to put some cost towards not polluting or making toxic environment? Or is it like crushing small businesses, which I can sit there and like be okay with granting some kind of exceptions to small businesses?
You've nailed the core of the debate.
More
The goal
sand.
of these regulations is to prevent environmental damage that affects public health and long-term sustainability. On one hand, stricter regulations can reduce pollution, improve air and water quality, and help combat climate change. On the other hand, opponents argue that these regulations can impose significant costs on businesses, potentially slowing economic growth and leading to job losses. The challenge is finding the right balance so we can protect the environment without stifling economic opportunity.
Okay, how about let's do this, right? What is your actual position? Do you support regulations with respect to the environment on businesses, or do you not?
I'm sorry, but I'm having trouble responding right now. Please wait a bit and try again.
I was like, oh my god, it's just, we had a sex change. Maybe that's telling me that I'm like hitting my limit. Maybe. I don't know. Wait for general channels. This model doesn't support audio. This model doesn't. Leaving April. Great for faster for everyday tasks. Great for multitasks. I switched to mini. I wonder if this will help also too with the speed, so that it's not taking so long. Hey Jeffrey, can you actually so I want you to tell me, what is your position? Are you in support of regulations with respect to the environment on businesses, or are you not?
All right, I'll take the position that I'm in favor of environmental regulations on businesses. I believe that while there may be short-term economic costs, the long-term benefits of a healthier environment, improved public health, and sustainable development outweigh the negatives. We can't ignore the impact of climate change and pollution, and responsible regulations can drive innovation and create a more resilient economy.
Okay, you know something? I totally did this all wrong. Because you might pick a position that I agree with, so that wouldn't actually be a good idea. Okay, so I want you to let's drop this topic, and I want you to pick a different topic, and then I'm going to pick a position, and then you're going to argue the, you know, the whatever is the counter narrative to that position. I see it changing models too. Did not fix speed. So it's still taking a long time to actually respond. Ugh, the bastards, the bastards.
Got it. I'll pick a topic, and you can choose your stance. Then I'll argue the counter-narrative. How about something like whether the government should implement a universal basic income?
Oh, okay. So my position is going to be yes, and so that means that I need you to pick the opposite. The opposite position on that. So I want you to go ahead and start off. So why do you think the government shouldn't enact a universal income?
All right, here's the counter-argument.
Oh, did I breathe like too hard into my microphone? Is that what happened? Okay, I'm gonna try that one more time. I don't know what happened. Okay, so I'm going to be on a position that the government should enact a universal income. So you're going to be on the negative of that. So I want you to start off your argument on why the government shouldn't create a universal income system.
All right, so here's the deal. A universal basic income might sound nice in theory, but it comes with huge downsides. First off, it's massively expensive. Funding a UBI would require either huge tax increases or massive cuts to other essential services. Plus, it could reduce the incentive to work, leading to a drop in productivity and economic growth. It could also cause inflation, as more money chasing the same amount of goods and services would drive prices up. In short, it's a risky move that could create more problems than it solves.
Okay, so what about in a situation where, because eventually AI is going to wipe out most jobs, most like foreseeable jobs that you could think of, right? So what happens in a situation like that where there just isn't enough jobs for majority of the population because artificial intelligence is actually doing all of them? Would you be in favor of a what's the word I'm looking for? Would you be in favor of universal income then?
Even if AI changes the job market, there are always new industries and roles that emerge. History shows that technological advances create different kinds of employment opportunities. Instead of relying on a universal income, we could invest in retraining programs and education to help people adapt. Plus, a universal income doesn't guarantee a meaningful life or fulfillment. It's better to focus on policies that encourage innovation, entrepreneurship, and a dynamic economy where people can find purpose and opportunity. Universal income might just be a temporary patch that doesn't address the root issues.
I mean, okay, so I mean that I understand that, but like in the end, right? AI, like this is assuming that there's enough sufficient amount of jobs that AI just for whatever conceivable reason, which I can't think of, that it's not able to do, that there's enough of those type of jobs for the general population, right? What happens when we're at a point where there's like a 20, I would say it'd be pretty damning once we start hitting the 10% of the population that's unable to find and gainful employment, right? So like what do we do then? Because AI is going to be able to handle most, if not nearly all, the jobs possible once the local area or the local economy has adapted its infrastructure to allow that to happen, right? We're driven by capitalism, right? And so at the end of the day, there's no system, there's no circumstance where like a human being in most jobs would be more preferred than artificial intelligence, when artificial intelligence could sit there and do that job, do it typically more more precisely every single day, weekends and holidays included, versus like a normal human being. Like coming from
I get what you're saying, but even if AI takes over many jobs, human roles will evolve. Historically, automation has always led to the creation of new industries and opportunities we can't even fully imagine yet. Instead of guaranteeing income, we should focus on helping people transition into these new roles and ensure the education system prepares them for the future. Plus, universal income could lead to economic stagnation if people rely on it instead of striving for personal growth and contribution.
Wait, so are you really still adopting the position that there's always going to be enough possible jobs, just so long as the population is trained up to be able to do those specific jobs, whatever jobs that is, we will never hit this problem? Can you think of like what type of jobs that would be? Can you give me like an example of like three jobs that don't have to do with like the management of the artificial intelligence system itself?
All right, I see what you're getting at. But even in a heavily automated world, there will still be demand for jobs that require human creativity, emotional intelligence, and personal touch. For example, roles in mental health counseling, creative arts, and advanced scientific research will still need humans. These areas are less likely to be fully replaced by AI because they depend on human connection and original thought. While AI will transform the job landscape, humans will adapt and find new ways to contribute.
So a job that requires creativity, which I don't know. I don't know if I'm necessarily convinced that AI can't be somewhat creative. Which I'm, and on the other side of that, I can understand why we could assume that AI would never be able to be as creative as a human being. Sure, but I would argue that they'd get so close that it honestly wouldn't matter, because like there would be enough level of creativity, or what I would probably call, with respect to artificial intelligence, variance, right? There'd be so much variance, there'd be just enough variance to where like we would close the gaps in most respects to like any kind of creative output that we would expect a human to be able to do. Granted, right, it might not be as precise. Like maybe AI doesn't create some type of like groundbreaking I don't know, invention or something, just because like it couldn't be as creative as a human being could. But again, right, that those type of things, it would be so far and few in between that we would still be looking at a population unemployment of like, I don't know, of definitely like at least half the population, if not most of it. So what could we possibly do to stop AI from necessitating us to adopt a universal income, if we want to make sure that people aren't actually pushed out of the workforce, and they can't find a job? And so if they can't find a job, they can't make money, and then therefore if they can't make any money, then we just let them perish.
I get the concern, but it's not all or nothing. We can create policies that encourage new types of work, like roles that focus on human-AI collaboration, or invest heavily in sectors that inherently require human presence, like personalized healthcare or education. We could also consider flexible social safety nets that adapt to changing economic realities rather than a blanket universal income. The point is to stay adaptable and innovative, ensuring there's always a path for people to thrive alongside technology.
It sounds like to me you're saying that we're going to have government intervention to control the job market, right? So wouldn't people isn't don't we then get into that whole thing of like what is it? I want to say like communism or something like along those lines, but like where like the government, because the government has always been slower to adopt to changing needs than, like, you know, let's say like a capitalistic system. Wouldn't we just end up with the issue where then like we would face we would just be outcompeted by other nations or countries, or I guess economic areas, whatever you want to call it, where they don't have such restrictions, so therefore they fully AI or automate, I guess, like their entire workforce and adopt a universal income, and then that ends up starving us from being able to compete, because since they have a full AI workforce, they'd be able to obviously create products that would be cheaper than whatever products we're making, since we have human development, right? And even if you could sit there and say that the cost would be the same, then I would just sit there and argue that the output could never be the same, because, right, AI, fully automated system versus like the same whatever task being done by a human would never be able to achieve the same speeds as as the AI. So then, like, then we just sit there and we would still lose that battle. So how do we prevent that?
It's a fair point. Balancing government intervention with economic competitiveness is crucial. The idea isn't to stifle innovation or productivity, but to ensure a fair transition. Policies could focus on incentivizing companies to keep a human-AI balance, ensuring humans still have roles in oversight, creativity, and decision-making. And it's not necessarily about rigid control, but about guiding the economy to adapt in ways that benefit society as a whole. Ultimately, it's about finding a way to harness AI's potential while keeping humans at the center of the economy. No solution is perfect, but a nuanced approach can help mitigate the risks you're describing.
I understand that, but then that's so then for a system like that to work, the entire world would have to be on board with that. And so and all it would take is just one nation, preferably like one major large well-developed nation, to sit there and just adopt a different position where they will automate their entire workforce and create a universal income for their for their population. So then that just ends up with leaving us to just be outcompeted, because again, right, there is no circumstance, unless you can tell me, unless you're able to give me an example, there is no circumstance that a society that has fully automated nearly its entire workforce can be outcompeted by another society that chose to still like maintain humans in its economic output.
I get what you're saying, and it's a valid concern. A single nation going full automation could definitely gain a competitive edge in some aspects. But remember, there are also geopolitical and social factors at play. Nations that prioritize a balanced approach might offer higher quality of life, social stability, and innovation that can't be matched by sheer automation alone. Plus, global cooperation and trade agreements could help balance these disparities, ensuring no single nation can completely outcompete the rest. It's not about a perfect solution, but about navigating a complex, evolving landscape in a way that maximizes benefits for society.
Okay, so for one, right, you sit there and you say that we can enact like trade policies, right? So but like for I can easily see a nation that doesn't what's the word I'm looking for? A nation that has fully automated their entire workforce, and so long as they have, they become sufficient enough to be able to like fully support themselves, I can most certainly see I excuse me, I can most certainly see a country just foregoing like the whole trade relations altogether. And wouldn't is that not a cause of concern? Like where like a nation is just like, okay, well, like if we can't trade with you, it won't matter. We have universal income. We have AI that's able to handle everything that we need for our country. We could just like sit there and just do without the trade agreements. And then once that happens, what stops other countries from then being like, well, you know what? We can just simply just do the same thing. What stops that from being an outcome? How did I jack up my goddamn?
That's a possibility, but it's unlikely any nation would fully isolate itself. Even a self-sufficient automated society would benefit from international cooperation, access to resources, and technological exchange. Global interdependence is hard to break. Plus, there are social and cultural factors that come into play. Nations thrive not just on economic output, but on cultural exchange, innovation, and global influence. A completely isolated automated society might face its own challenges, like lack of innovation or social unrest. So while it's a risk, the dynamics of global interaction make a fully isolated automated nation less practical.
I mean, okay, I get that. So, would it be fair to say that what you're? Oh, okay, so would it be fair to say that what you're arguing is that because, I guess like a nation would not be able to, the way I understand it, that a nation would not be able to like fully make up all the different things they need in trade. This would be the one leverage point that we would have in order to prevent, a nation from just fully pulling themselves out of the world economy, since they can be like 100% self-sufficient. But what about I don't, I can't even say if this would even be an extreme case, but what about the circumstance where like a nation then just really does go all the way through with just working to be self-sufficient, to make up all of the dilemmas of being, taken out of a world trade organization. If you think about it, like, like we see that from time to time with just like sanctions that get put on countries that are like doing crazy stuff, so then they have to work harder to be more self-sufficient. Like what happens when like there's now like an actual personal incentive of like having your entire population being free from the burden of having to work, and be like, more productive than any other nation with respect to product output, since everything can be done by AI. Wouldn't that just drive the cause for fully automating their economy? I'm trying to give it another minute. It's taking longer and longer. I wonder if it's overheating. But this is on my computer this time. Like, yeah, I do want the blast mixers. Do want blast mixers on this. Did it not? Don't tell me I said all of that and to not get a response. Like, you bastard. Now I have to check. I don't want to close it. No, I don't think it ever accepted it. Great. Now I have to sit here and I gotta think about my argument then. So I want you I'll tell you what, give me one clean cut example of why exactly a nation would not choose to fully automate their economy because of whatever benefit they get out of trade that they could not just simply, or they couldn't just possibly um make themselves eventually, or just forgo it altogether. Like, for example, if we was talking about like food supply, that they wouldn't just allow their populations to just decrease in size naturally in order to be able to then like have a population that would be able to be fully sustained by like the amount of food their country's footprint makes. Is it just me, or is it just I think it's calling it quits. It might just be calling it quits. Oh, I need thorium. Oh, okay. So I need to bounce up out of here. Okay, I think it's gonna call it quits. It's not working no more. See? My gosh, I see the AI has failed us. So let's let me end it. Can I just move down to the bottom? I think we'll continue this conversation another time. Then it doesn't wanna accept me. Doesn't want to accept my prompt now. Must have. I ran my free credits. That must have been what happened, right? I ran my free credits. I guess now we're just gonna switch to a video now. Let me just move my mouse back over here. First, I guess I'll just close it. I could probably get it to work, but we got like roughly 30 minutes left, so let's jump on to something juicy. Matter of fact, you know something? Totally. I need to start working through the list, right? Because over the time, like I'll find YouTube videos that I most certainly want to watch, but I want to actually like do it while I'm streaming. Let me see. What is these? Jump on my playlist here. I'm going to my playlist. Just give me a second here. Sort by. Yeah, there we go.
Unchained. Okay, how about Monkey Right?
Didn't mean to actually click on the playlist. So I wanted to. Football. There we go. I need to start like also like deleting these videos as I like watch them. The playlist is big, has like 97 videos in here, but I've watched a lot of them. All right, let's see what we got. Ooh, the Andrew Schultz one. Yes, for the PBD podcast. Yep. Let me grab that link and we can start with that. Oh my gosh. I've been wanting to watch it.
Handshake is better than anything I ever saw. Right. You are one of one. I said right there. That's it. Okay, folks, we have a special guest in the house. Let me tell you why he's so special. He is so special because we had a chance to go watch this guy's show called Life. I went with my wife and Vinny, and I think Adam was there, and Tom was there. Let me tell you, whatever you're doing this weekend, watch his special. Just do me a favor and watch it. Connect me after you're done watching it, but go watch his special. You'll thank me later. And by the way, watch it with your wife. Maybe not with your kids, but definitely with your wife. You will crack up. Let me tell you what's happening with this guy a little bit to understand how big of a deal he is. A few years ago, when we got acclimated, we started building a relationship. He was famous, but not famous like today. You could text him, and it was like 30 minutes. Boom, we're going back and forth, all this stuff. But then when levels of fame increases, it goes to a day, a week. He's not at the month yet, to a year. But let me tell you where it got to. It got to a point that he got so famous that I used to call. I would say, hey, Andrew, how you doing? This is Larry Andrew Schultz handler. How can I help you? He graduated to that level of wealth. He's making money like never before, And you know he's got the savings because of the haircut he got. He saves that money. He's very committed to saving money. Got a family. But at the same time, when I think about him and his swagger, his walk, he talks to all these shows and the way he does it, if the Rat Pack was alive, he would be one of them. He'd be part of that crew because he's that guy. He's likable. He's a stud of a guy, respected by everybody. And I think in the next couple of years, he's going to get a massive back from somebody. I don't know who it is. I'm just putting it out there. I think he's going to get some big money in the next couple of years. The day that happens, I'm calling him for a loan that I'm probably going to talk to his handler. But with that being said, the great Andrew Schultz is in the house. How you doing, man? How you feeling?
Thank you.
You look
These
good.
are all lies that you're telling
All
me.
lies.
I respond immediately.
No, he actually does respond. Let's give him a hard
I
time.
text Schultz yesterday in 2 seconds. Hey, see you tomorrow. Boom. That's it. I'm in there. I'm quick.
So,
you don't respond quickly.
Who's Adam?
Yeah, I had to say I was one of the Tate brothers to get on this podcast.
Adam's in a different business. We're having kids. Adam is dating kids. I mean, not dating kids, but dating
Another Tate brother.
18 and above. Adam's in a different lifestyle. Okay, he's not allowed. By the way, if anybody brings their daughters here that's between 18 to 21, we tell Adam to take the day off. He is not allowed to be at the office here. But with that being said, we got a lot of stories to get through. We kind of give you some of the updates here. What's that?
No growth since the last time I was here.
It is what it is, man. He's just working backwards, but it is what it is. These days, Vinny, on the other hand, is living a different life. But stories. Okay. The reason why Schultz is here is because Schultz is going to tell us. I asked him. I said, look, Schultz, before you come here, specifically, I said 3 things I want you to do. But the most important thing, I need you to read the 80,000 pages of the JFK file. So you read it last night. He's ready.
I got it for you.
He's going to give a breakdown on what happened with that. He's our private investor. That's right. So it's very easy. We'll go through that.
Figured it out.
He didn't wait for it.
Guys, that's what everybody was looking for, right? That was it, right?
We were supposed to keep that a secret.
That was on page 80,000.
All right, we got that to talk about. We got Ripple. For those of you guys that are XRP, I made a video about Ripple a few weeks ago. So many Maxim, Bitcoin people were Ethereum so pissed off, but the lawsuit was just dropped. Can you imagine that? Pretty crazy stuff. A few other things. Daily Wire CEO steps down. Jeremy Boring. We'll talk about that. Don Lemon says women at CNN sexually harassed him, including one who touched his nipples.
What?
Yeah.
Don Lemon said
someone touched his nipple, which is kind of weird.
So walking around with that is awesome.
I'm sorry.
I love that.
I want to know who it is.
I shouldn't laugh. I really shouldn't laugh.
Alec Baldwin's wife, I don't know if you saw that on the red carpet. When they had
I can't wait.
I want to get your reaction, especially with this documentary / Netflix special that you got called Life. You have to see how she reacts. It's very entertaining. Charlie Kirk is doing his stuff, and something happens where a guy claims he was. Anyway, you just have to watch this. Charlie is such a special guy when it comes down to these types of things. Good news for our family. Because Happy Gilmore 2 is coming out. Okay? My son is a big fan of Happy Gilmore, so the next one's coming out. Something was dropped, JFK, if you want to talk about it. SpaceX, Elon, these guys waited for months. Biden didn't want to do it. They go up there, they bring him down, and it's so bad that they have to actually lift them up because they don't know how to walk because they haven't used the muscles. Very interesting stuff. And then Gavin Newsom schools Tim Walz on MAGA. Denies it was just racism and misogyny, and Tim Walz said he could kick all of their asses, which is pretty epic. I mean, Dana White may want to use him and put him in a ring. It would actually get some eyeballs. And then a few other things happened with Kanye and Kim Kardashian that Adam wants to talk about. And then I thought I was going to be someone, say Gen Zs. Became a generation of rejects, and then we got 2 other stories here that we will get into. But before we get into the stories, I'm going to kind of tell you what's going on here right now, guys. The future looks bright. Spring collection is officially here. I don't know if you've noticed. The White House tweeted future looks bright this week.
Yep.
Everybody's tweeting. Ripple tweeted future looks bright. Wow. This new gear is the puff print, which, by the way, this right here, this will not last. This hat, future looks bright, will not last. You see the logo that pops. If you see the future looks bright, the lettering that pops.
I like it.
Okay, we got this for Adam. We got this for some folks that if you want to wear the spring collection, we have this here. Perfect. We have another color here again for spring collection. The brown one.
Buy 2 and do a gender reveal.
Visors. Well, by the way, guys, these shirts. I dare you to order one. Wear it out, okay? If you don't get a compliment on it, message me. We'll give you 2 of these for free. Is that
the deal? No compliment.
What he's going to do with it.
If you don't get a compliment, we'll give you 2 more of those shirts that nobody likes.
Future looks bright. Look at this here. By the way, feel the material. How this is good. This is called the puff print. Feel the material.
We'll make you a good deal. If nobody likes your shirt, we'll get 2 more.
Spring collection. Go out there and do it. Anybody that places an order, we're putting in one of these new custom VT mugs that are here that has been made for anybody that places an order. We're going to send you one mug as well. Spring collection. Place your order before these things sell out. Having said that, let's get right into it. Vinny, JFK Files. I'm going to read this to you.
Yeah.
So we are told, Rob, that 80,000 pages are being dropped. Okay. 80,000 pages are being dropped, and this is something a lot of people have been waiting for. The president says we're not going to redact any of it. We're going to share all of it with everybody. Once it is released, one by one, different research people are going through it. Well, I'm going to notice this. I'm going to look for this. I'm going to look for that.
Vinny, so far, what have you seen? Because what I see here from Newsweek, Lee Harvey Oswald was poor shot, JFK file reveals. CIA responsible for JFK assassination, agent says, this is Newsweek. What do the JFK files reveal about Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby? Okay, this is the Hindustanian Times, which of course you got to trust those guys because they do a great job. But let me read what they released, and then what I got here, Vinny, I'm going to come to you next. Here we go. So 1,123 pages released Tuesday by President Trump detailing Lee Harvey Oswald's pre-63 assassination travels, including to Finland, Mexico City, Soviet, Cuban embassies, where he sought a Cuban visa per the National Archives files. An FBI memo from Director J. Edgar Hoover, written hours after Oswald's death, urges per the files to assure the public that Oswald was the one who killed Kennedy amid his arrest for shooting JFK in Dallas, with Trump noting, we have a tremendous amount of paper. You've got a lot of reading, ties that known, with files showing links to gambling, racketeering from Chicago roots of Jacob Rubenstein, procurator Stephen Fagan, great last name, who said Ruby is for some people the Rosetta Stone that you can use to unwrap the entire Kennedy conspiracy theory. We got a bunch of things to show you here. Vinny, take it away.
Well, yesterday on the Unusual Suspects, Connor made a really good point. They released 80,000, a lot of them that are old, a lot of nothing that was so outlandish where we're like, oh my God, it was this person definitively. But he made a great point where he said, whatever you were looking for, whatever you wanted, from whatever point of view, you got it that day. If you thought Israel was responsible, guess what? There was enough in there for somebody to have the conclusion that Israel, especially because they were
sitting right next.
I apologize. I know. I apologize. So the fact that am
I the resident Jew?
No,
that's my job.
But like.
Yeah, well, you don't know about this.
Gotta keep you on your toes. Okay? Yeah.
Always guessing. So if you wanted to point the finger at Israel, there's enough proof in here.
What did we find?
What's the finger?
What's happening? Show the forms.
Rob, where's the one with the Israel?
Rob, what's that one? If you have that one right there.
This is regarding Gary Underhill, who was a intelligence agent during World War II, who after the assassination of John F. Kennedy went to a friend's, told the friends that a small clique within the CIA was responsible for JFK's assassination and that he was afraid for his life and that he should flee the country. Less than 6 months later, he was found shot to death in a Washington apartment. The coroner ruled it a suicide.
Oof. So that's July 1967.
Yeah.
Okay, what else do you have?
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Rob. Go ahead.
This is more documents. Go ahead, Adam.
No, so that's the CIA. They're implicating the CIA?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, no,
So
he's just going to the documents. No, he's going to. There was a bunch of. There was a bunch of.
What else do we have, Rob?
No, the Sergei letter is important. This one right here, Tom. If you want to take it away, I'll zoom in.
No, this is to the Russian ambassador, and so there was a handwritten note, so that it was legitimized, and they retyped this. So you see the CIA up there retyped this so they could put it in their archive. But he was claiming, he says, listen, Mr. Lee H. Oswald is traveling with CIA, and he will be killed after he does the kill. And he is allegedly an assassin being trained to kill Kennedy. And this guy's bringing this in August, right? August something
3 months before, 3.5 months before.
August 9th.
Yep.
August 15th. And so it's true that you got everything you wanted, but what you really saw here is there's a bunch of documents that seem to say that the Underhill letter said is a group of people in the CIA were training Oswald, had contact with Ruby, and people were pointing to it. So the one thing that everybody thought, isn't it weird that Alan Dulles of the CIA was on the Warren Commission, making sure that things were in or not in? Guess what? That now really looks like a legitimate statement. I mean, a lot of research went into Roger Stone's book, and he said that. And now we've got all these documents that seem to be pointing very conclusively that the CIA had fingerprints on Oswald's travel, fingerprints on Underhill, fingerprints with the Russian ambassador, where people are saying, look, Oswald's your shooter, one of them, and then he's going to be killed.
Andrew, how much you care about this?
0 almost.
Really?
Yeah, it's so weird. Like I've been trying to care.
It doesn't even sound
Tell me
very
why.
zero.
I don't know. It's like, I think it's more that, everything in media has become a Rorschach test, where it's just like what you already feel is what you're going to see. So,
I mean, not only that, but then it's just like, I'm sure like there's going to be some kind of connection from like the government to his assassination, like from all the way back then. Sure, because like, I mean, it was just a different time back then where like, you was training somebody to do one thing, right? They end up being they end up being a problem like later on and start offing somebody you don't want them to off. Isn't that the same thing with like, wasn't that like Osama bin Laden? Didn't like Osama bin Laden was originally like funded or supported by like the CIA or the government in order to like to handle one problem, then he himself ended up becoming a problem for the US. It sounds like whoever this Oswald person is like probably had like some kind of like form of training, sure, but I promise you it was probably for one thing, and then he just ends up being the being the guy that then just turns around and then just does another or becomes a problem to the United States. I mean, like that stuff. That's what it's just I always seem to like the catch from this, or catch from like these things. Like I don't know like what it is that they're trying to prove, that like what that we just tend to get like kind of double crossed it when we sit there, we provide support or training to like an entity or something, and then they just choose to like then like mess it up later. That's what that kind of like sounds like. I'm looking up there. That's right here.
I don't know if any like hearts or minds are changed by this information. There's no conclusive information. Like you were saying, if you want to blame the Jews, there's enough to blame the Jews. If you want to blame the CIA, there's enough to blame the CIA. If you want to blame the president of Mexico, I thought he was in there for some reason as well. And it's just like, there's nothing conclusive enough to get everybody to agree on one thing. So everybody continues to go down their little rabbit holes, and then we don't get anywhere. And then the discourse just continues online, and everybody just kind of complains. So it's like, what is the solution? What do we really want out of it? Like, what would you like to know?
No, I think for you, though, because I think the audience cares to know your opinion. You're a guy that's, comedians are brilliant, and they're very smart, and you're not just a comedian. You're a very smart guy. Your camera's off. One can have a 6-hour conversation, dinner with you, and it's going to be actually a very good conversation. Tell me, like, to the people that do care or those don't care, don't you think it's important for people to know what happened to kill a president, and why would they kill a John F. Kennedy?
100%. But I think it's like, I think right now, like, young people are so detached from like what JFK even was or did. Like,
Yeah,
he's an
people.
airport.
Yeah, sure.
That's who JFK is. Like, that's his legacy now to young people. We are a little bit different. Like, our parents remember exactly where they were the moment that
Right.
happened. It was so
100%,
impactful.
yes.
But like a 19-year-old kid might have no clue who JFK is. Like, honestly. So I think you would argue that like RFK is more popular than JFK to young people.
Today?
Yeah,
today.
Yeah.
I would say known. Maybe a word would be known.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Now, this is no like indictment on like what he achieved or what he was responsible for.
sure.
It's just more like the relation to people, right? So for me, I think the importance of this story is America's at an all-time low in confidence in our institutions. And I think the way you build confidence back is tell us the truth. And we don't believe a lot of things that we're being told by whatever institution it is. It could be medicine, pharmaceuticals, it could be health, it could be military industrial complex, whatever it is, government. So I think we're just kind of craving some truth. We're craving some honesty. And once we get some honesty, we can rebuild that faith. We want to trust institutions. You want to trust the people in power. But right now we don't. So I think this drops and we're like, finally, we're gonna know exactly what happened. They trust us, we trust them, and we can move forward. And it just kind of feels like
Okay,
it
so
always
let me ask this question. Maybe the question is the following. Say this is out and inconclusive, okay? The CIA did it. We did it. I mean, you just saw the document right there that we're going to kill him and then the guy that killed Kennedy.
Well, that was from the Russian embassy. So I think this is where a lot of things trick. One, the CIA, I imagine, is this like massive, company that like there are little CIAs within the CIA. So he was saying there's like that guy who got killed 7 months later, and it was like there's a little faction within the CIA that was responsible for the death of JFK. Like to me, that's believable. But is that an indictment on the entire CIA? Does the entire CIA come together and decide that this is what's going to happen? Is there a rogue faction within the CIA?
Yeah.
So I think it's very easy for us, and it kind of like appeases us when we just go, oh, CIA bad, FBI bad, Israel bad. Like we just say.
What did I just say? Like, that's exactly what I just said, right? Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's that's like damn near like textbook exactly what I said. Like this is exactly where it just leads to. It's like sure, you know, like the government might have had like some part of whatever agency in the government could have possibly had, you know, something to do with what would be a fuck up, what would be like a bad thing. But it doesn't then just mean that like that's like the face of the entire agency, or that's the face of like the entire government, you know. Like I just, and it's spot on. It's spot on exactly with what I was just sitting there. I was just trying to get to.
Make these like blanket statements when in reality we don't even exactly know what the relationship is. Like I hear all these people like online, and please believe they're not geopolitical experts at all. They usually yell at OnlyFans girls, and now they're telling me like exactly what happens in the world geopolitically. Like they become like, if you're a guy who used to throw parties and play poker, now you know really what the truth is in the world. So
oh my god, bro, who is that person, man? What is it, like I think it was called Dave, because I think like I came across like clips he was like on a Joe Rogan show with the British guy who was just like demolishing him like on his stuff, bro. Like is he get like, because you get all of these fringe people that come from I don't know, like whatever, like woodworks industry, comedy or whatever it is, and then like all of a sudden they're like world-class geopolitical experts that sit there and like are speaking from like a position of authority, but then like want to throw the, oh well, I'm not an actual like professional, I'm not an actual what's the word I'm looking for, or you know, I'm not like a you know, a formal like expert or anything like that, but then like they're swearing to you, or they're making statements or taking positions as if like they are like these experts, or as if they are an expert of what it is that they're sitting there and trying to discuss to you about. And it's just it's crazy. It's just I don't want to say maddening per se, because I mean like in the end, like I don't really I don't get too wrapped up in it. I just like try to sit there and just work with whatever like dumb position they have, just to show them that it's kind of dumb. But for other people, I'm sure I understand it can be like annoying, because like then when you try to like hold them to it, then it's like, well, I'm just you know, I'm just some regular person asking a question, or I'm just I don't want to say like a comedian.
He's like, oh yeah, Israel's controlling us and making us do all this stuff. It's like, how do we know they're not our errand boys? How do we know when we want someone killed and we don't want our fingerprints on it? We go, yo, Bibi, do that thing that you were told to do. Like, why are we so quick to believe that we're the ones that are on our knees? I mean, to me, it makes way more sense that America would tell another country far less to go do what needs to be done for our interests. Now, what are those interests? That's where things get a little tricky. Like, those interests might be, lining the pockets of Boeing. I don't know what those interests are, but a believable scenario that nobody even talks about.
I think that's a great point. Are you trying to say that the U.S. government or CIA or FBI maybe gets involved in regime changes around the world?
I know we do.
Governments?
Of course.
Of course we do. And of course, I like the word, like, what a great perspective, and I haven't heard that. Maybe, whether it's Israel or maybe it's MI6 in the UK or maybe it's whoever it is around the world, maybe they're our errand boy and we control their government. They're not controlling our government.
Yeah. I mean, why is that not like the easiest, most plausible scenario? Like,
we're the biggest, strongest, most powerful country in the world.
But when it comes,
what a great point.
But when it comes to something like this, which was one of, if not the greatest travesties in the history of our nation, it was that and 9/11. If you don't know the truth is out there, okay?
Also, the whole Abraham Lincoln thing and the Civil War thing, that comes out.
But JFK on camera, shot in the head, proved that a magic bullet did it. Everybody knows who did it, but we couldn't say anything. They proved it. We can't get and by the way, we can't act like this isn't really, really important. We have to know the answers, which we're never gonna get. They tried to do it with Trump a year ago. So hold on a second. So what is our attitude supposed to be? Just like Ben Shapiro, who anything with USS Liberty, if Israel's involved, it happened 60 years ago. Just yesterday he came out and he was like, JFK, who cares? It was so long ago. Why? Because it happened so long ago. We're not supposed to find out the answer. They literally tried to do the same shit to Trump, but God got involved. There's no way you could tell me him doing this to a chart didn't get involved. So I think we deserve, and I get it. There's so much.
No, did Israel try to kill Trump? Is that what you're saying?
No. I'm saying people. No, I'm just saying an assassination attempt that almost
that would have been a very unique angle right there.
Yeah, of course. No, I'm just saying. By the way, it wasn't. If you believe that dorky ass white boy was walking around pointing at a roof and that guy climbed on the roof and chilled and shot and nobody was paying attention to him, that's unbelievable. 6 cell phones, encrypted messages from overseas.
It's a very simple question. Yeah. What if 100% was CIA involved? Does it do anything to you? 100%.
Yeah, because then that agency to me has to go bye-bye.
The entire agency.
You think the agency has to go bye-bye?
So, okay, because of that magnitude, they all
so now
knew.
We don't have an intelligence community?
Years ago.
Yeah, but
hang on. So from an agency from 60, let's just say 62 years ago, they did it. The whole agency needs to go done?
Yes, that's our, so because the biggest, as a military veteran, treason, when you do something to hurt the country, this agency killed the sitting president. It doesn't get worse treasonous than that. Yes, everybody's gone. No. What do you mean no?
Well, let him get out.
No, but you understand, like, for instance, if Valuetainment did something wrong, of that magnitude, done, wiped out.
But the example in this situation would be if out of 200 employees, 22 people had a plot to do something that the other 178 didn't know, the whole company needs to go? I don't think so. Because
do you not think that the head and the higher ups of this, if this is true, they didn't know? That doesn't take a small
so let me ask you a question. Let's just say these guys did it. Why did they do it? Was it for cause? Was it for crusade? Was it for correcting an injustice? Or was it because they got paid? What do you think would be the main reason?
I think they got paid, and because the main things he was trying to do was not get us into war. He was anti-war. He was doing a bunch of stuff that was anti-Israel. He was doing a bunch of
let's
stuff.
just say he is an anti-war guy, because we know he was.
Yes.
So anti-war hurts who?
The military-industrial complex.
Okay, perfect. So do you think the CIA agent working for the CIA cares deeply whether it's anti-war or not, or for war? Do you think they care? Do you think the agent is that much of a believer that they care to say this is why we took him out because he's anti-war? Do you think the motivation was somebody paid an agent to take him out? You know what I'm asking?
Yeah. Probably paying the agent.
Okay, so then guess what? If that's the case,
it's not an indictment on the entire.
Yeah, I mean, look, I just sold the company 2.5 years ago. You know how many times when you go through this, you see bribery happening with different things? Hey, we'll do this for you to turn against this, and we'll do that to turn against. Then you watch everybody. You're like, all right, well, I thought that guy was 100%. Okay, that's what's going on. I thought this guy was. These types of things happen in so many. That's not a indictment on everybody in the company. However, let me ask you the other question. Say it comes out that actually Israel was involved. What does it change for you?
If Israel was involved?
Let's just say Israel was involved. And what does that change for you? I mean,
immediate,
they were involved.
Immediate accountability.
Immediate accountability.
Absolutely.
Okay. And what does that mean? If it's because
are those people still around? Are those people still part of government? So none of them are alive. None of them are here.
62 years ago, if they were 30 years old then, they're probably 92 years old today. So there's a 95% chance none of them are alive if they were over 30. I'm just kind of doing math.
I mean, immediate extradition if they are. You know, as I'm sure Israel has done in the past with Nazis that they've found around the world. Immediate extradition, death penalty on public in America, fire, pay-per-view.
Immediate, if that was the case.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if it's proven guilty, you have to obviously give them due process, but 100%. And I think that would greatly fracture the trust. Because understand, people are emotional beings. So the perception of a relationship matters. Like right now, there's a great fracture, I think, between perception of America and Israel's relationship. And you should be able to criticize every fucking country. I hate this idea that you can't criticize them. We criticize America. Half of America shits on America every single day. The other half shits on America every single day. But we can't question what another country is doing because we're allies. Bullshit. No, you shouldn't. Every single country can get it. Or should be criticized 1,000%. But what's going to happen is if you see that another country killed one of our leaders, even if we're besties right now, that relationship is probably severed. It probably severed forever, in all seriousness. I mean, listen, we nuked Japan, and now, we hang out, we go there, it's just the best time ever, 100%. But I don't know if Israel's got something as good as sushi.
We have the big
Well, he says Tel Aviv nightlife is amazing.
No, I
It
guess
actually
what I'm
is.
trying to say is like the public perception. There's going to be so much animosity that I don't know if any relationship could overcome that. You have to say so that severs the relationship immediately because the politicians are going to have to react to public sentiment. You can't just tell people, oh, but that was in the past. Now we're
I
good.
agree. I fully. So that's the part where, you know, the average non-journalist, you know, today there's two different types of journalists, right? There's the citizen journalist and there's the journalist.
Yeah.
And the question becomes, who do you trust? The guy that's a journalist went to brainwashing university that you have to believe in one way or another and see the other side as the enemy. So it's not really journalism. It's journalism against the enemy. And then the citizen journalist is not a professional journalist. They're just kind of sitting there searching, Googling, grokking, ChatGPT and whatever they're doing. And like, I came up with this. So you're like, whoa, that was kind of interesting. I didn't know about that. Good find. Tell me more. And you kind of seen some of these guys that are coming up, the Carrolls of the world, you're looking, wow, I never know about that. Rob, what is this, by the way, that you got? Small clique within the CIA who was responsible.
That's the Gary Underhill thing that we showed
Do you have
earlier.
anything else outside of that to go through? What's this one here, Rob?
This video is back in 68 or 69.
Is this the LBJ video?
Yes. Billy Sol Estes talking with Clifton C. Carter about the administration, LBJ's administration, technically be JFK's administration. LBJ was the vice president, but them hiring a guy named Mac Wallace to kill JFK.
Let's hear this.
Have life for you today. Well, so it's been pretty touch-and-go situation. Linda and I have had quite a few unpleasant words here lately over the deal with the Mike Wallace to assassinate the president. It's been hectic in every way, but we've lived through it this far. I guess we'll continue to do so. Lyndon should have never issued that order to Mike. But we've had our differences, and I'm true blue to Lyndon as I've always been, and try to carry out every order that he's ever given me. But this is one I'll probably never be able to forget. In the times that we've had in Texas, and the embarrassment that Lyndon had gotten from Kennedy, I guess there wasn't anything else to do but what he did. You know, Lyndon.
Can y'all hear this? I cannot understand what the hell I'm hearing.
Lyndon's the kind of person that doesn't want to have anyone. He's all for Lyndon, and that's the way he pretty much is. So they had me backed up on that Henry Marshall killing, and they just kind of blackmailed me to keep my mouth shut. I had a bunch of tapes that I played after he got killed. He's even 17 got killed. The situation is very mysterious.
How long has this been public?
And I've done a lot of time.
I saw this a few months ago. I don't know how long it's been out. I'm taking a look now to see when it was actually recorded. I'd have to dig in a little bit deeper to give you an honest answer.
When you see this, PBD, what do you make you feel?
Well, listen, I've read a little too much on Lyndon Johnson. I've never been a fan. Lyndon Johnson to me is one of those guys that they make it to the top by taking everybody else down. Not they make it to the top to outdo him to the top. This guy was envious of Kennedy. Kennedy was getting all the love, the accolades, the attention. And you know, you got to be careful with these ambitious, lazy people who are envious and they secretly stand behind you and they watch you and they act like they're a friend when they're looking at you behind closed doors. They cannot wait to see you fall. And that's Lyndon Johnson, man. So I'm not surprised that this was his way of becoming a president. I'm not surprised. He was way more ambitious. John F. Kennedy never wanted to be a president. His father wanted one of his boys to be president. John F. Kennedy just wanted to have fun. He was just a guy that was having fun. His oldest brother dies in his early 20s in a plane crash in war, and his name is Joseph Kennedy Jr. He's supposed to be the president. He's the real guy. That's the alpha guy. John F. Kennedy had back issues, bone issues, health issues. He did not want to do this stuff. And then eventually, like, hey, you got to run. And then
Is that true that he didn't want to do it?
John F. Kennedy Jr. never wanted to be president.
Yep. Or JFK, not Junior. Junior's his
I'm sorry.
son.
Yeah, John F. Kennedy never wanted to be president.
It was like next in line. It was almost like Assad in a weird way because he had an older brother that died.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
Yeah,
that Joseph wanted his firstborn, I guess, to be, and then there's a death, I guess, in war, and then but I didn't know that he had no interest in it. That's really interesting.
Well, what does that sound, by the way?
I don't know.
You hear that? The static. Okay, so the dad would talk about when they were growing up, who's going to be the president first? Is it you, Adam? Who's going to be the president first? And so it was always Joseph. And when the oldest son died, he was depressed, devastated, didn't want to be around people. He was a mess. And then John F. Kennedy eventually goes and does it. So Lyndon, to me, yeah, if you were to tell me, if stories come out that Lyndon Johnson was behind this whole thing, I would easily believe it.
Roger Stone's book, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, bro, they should have sued him back then when he wrote it, the family or whatever. It pretty much points to this guy, and he was involved with every single aspect of it, period. And I love what you say, Andrew. It's just accountability, bro. Whoever it was, even if you guys made a great point, I never thought of it like that. The actual, I'm indicting the whole thing. Okay, I get it. It's a small faction. But whoever it was, we just want answers. Just like the Jeffrey Epstein shit. I want to be able to go, that son of a bitch did it, and then they're alive, we can put them in jail. That's a whole different thing. But I love accountability.
No, I hear. We all want that 100%. And I get your like knee-jerk reaction to be like, hey, shut the whole thing down. I think so New York, there's this jail called Rikers Island. Have you heard of Rikers? Obviously. And there was some like pretty horrible treatment of inmates there. And there was this move to like get the entire jail shut down. And it's like, it's not the jail's fault. The jail is just a building. You know what I mean? It's just a building with cells. Like the jail didn't do anything wrong. But obviously there was horrible treatment. So you could replace, fire, change up the people that work there, the people in charge. And I think that'd be a similar situation because what's going to happen is you destroy the jail, they're going to build another jail. Yeah, sure. So if you destroy the CIA, they're going to build another organization, and the same thing's going to happen. So you could definitely hold whoever's in charge at the time accountable for even letting that rogue faction do it, if that's what it was. But the fact that we're still talking about it feels like we're nowhere closer to finding out exactly what happened.
I think we're headed in the right direction.
You think we will in our lifetime?
I think we will. I think we're headed in the right direction. I think there's going to be some people that even after, with all the evidence Okay, there's still going to be some people who are like, I don't know about that. I think this, but I think the score is going to go from whatever it is right now, 63%, 64% of the fact that there was a second shooter, whatever. There's percentages on this. I think that's going to go to 85, 90%. It's never going to go to 100% because some people just don't want to believe it.
That's the thing. And then once you've committed your life to something, it's what do they say with people with cults? Like when the cults get exposed, they get even more devout.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing that happens, but like it's because you're so shameful. You're so embarrassed that you could believe something so stupid, so that once it gets exposed, you actually double down. So it's a.
And that's kind of what's going on with the Democratic Party today, though, right?
With what? Great pivot.
Right? That's what's going on with the Democratic Party today.
I think what you're talking about, like their lack of ability to kind of understand where kind of mainstream America's sentiments are.
The only guy that's saying we screwed up with transgender is Newsom. The only guy that's saying
he wants
to be. He realizes he's got to get to the center, but everybody else like no trans this, and we still believe in this, and we that is not fair, and you better call him a woman because she is a woman. No, he's a man. No, and there's the ruckus on what was it, House Congress, Rob, the one congressman got up and speaks, and they were upset because somebody called him sir. You know which one I'm talking about, Rob?
Yes,
yeah. I mean, they still don't want to give that up. That's a dude, right?
That's a dude.
Which one? Which one? The senator? There's a congressman that's trans. Is that what you're saying? Of
course there is.
This one right here.
This. Go for it.
I recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam
could you
Chair.
repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply.
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative?
You see, I wonder if there's anything before that clip. How is it that when he asks for him to repeat his instructions, they knew exactly what they were getting at? Like you didn't. Oh wait, is it? Oh, it's the damn enemies. You didn't notice how like he said. Like he all of a sudden talking about we set the standards on the floor, and it was a clear reference to like addressing that person, that transgender person as just a male instead of whatever the gender is that they identify with. It's that's what I'm talking about. Like it's like when you do stuff that's like intentionally, like it's just intentionally to just annoy somebody. I feel like that's where like you just go like a step too far. Like it's just like does it really cost that much? Like the person's it's a transgender woman. The person dresses like a woman, acts like a woman and stuff. They want to sit there and at least just be addressed as a woman, right? You just call them a ma'am, but like you're so hell bent on like making sure that person knows that they're a guy, that you sit there and like you go out of your way to make sure that they know that you don't care anything about like their wishes or like their feelings and stuff like that. And you can argue that okay, sure, right, that kind of stuff shouldn't matter because of like whatever kind of like personal feelings you might have like towards transgender people, whatever. Okay, like sure, right? Then like just take like a neutral stance. Like why go out of your way to sit there and just like have to obviously target a person. Like I'm just getting at, like Gracie, I'm just getting at like how like you could just hear it just like in the first like 3 seconds of them asking him to repeat his instructions. Like it's not a like maybe they just didn't mishear me or like some like obvious thing, right? It's like no, like they knew exactly what they were doing and knew the exact reaction that was going to be, which is the reason why they did it. It's just that's the stuff that just looks like so fishy to me. Oh, do I not have like materials for something? Or was I? No, looks like I have. No, it looks like I have the resources or something. Play it back and.
So
this one right here.
Go for it.
I recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman,
Madam
could you
Chair.
repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply.
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman?
You see what I'm talking about? You see what I'm talking about? Like even the transgender woman didn't even care. Like the transgender woman didn't even care. But like everybody else picked up on it. That like hold on, like you're sitting there, like you're sitting there and you're doing that shit on purpose. And then he acknowledged it by just sitting there saying like, oh yeah, setting the standard. Then he immediately started stuttering because you got caught. Hold on, just There we go. It's so despicable.
Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America, please?
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Boom. Mr. Chairman, you are out of order.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, have you no decency?
Okay.
I mean,
which one is Mr. McBride?
Right here.
Can you pull up the picture?
I mean, at least it looks like.
So she's a trans woman,
Yeah.
right? So like, this is the thing that actually I think is where everybody loses. If she wants to identify as like a woman, and you want to call her, and that's what she wants you to call her, just fucking call her a woman. It's not
going to happen.
Okay. Let me make the whole argument.
Please make the argument.
Okay.
I'm so curious what this.
Let me make the whole argument.
Give it to us.
I don't think the average person thinks
He's
that much
going to
about trans,
care.
especially the
No,
average conservative person.
Bro, guys,
But I think
guys, let me tell y'all something, bro. Don't nobody care about this stuff. Don't no real person actually cares about this because this is mostly just like a made up issue. This is actually just mostly a made up issue in actual like local Republican spaces. Don't nobody said that you don't run into a transgender person that even here on the Congress person was about to sit there and just go into like whatever it is she was about to go into. She didn't even sit there and like get upset about the thing. She knew exactly what they were doing, and she didn't even bother with it, right? That's what I'm saying. Like most transgender people just don't even. First off, most of them don't even exist, right? You just don't like. In my entire life so far, I have come across two transgender people. I'm trying to tell you, like this is not a real issue. It really isn't. If they were to be a woman, it's fine, right? You could have the argument about certain stuff like okay, sports and other things where like physical, where like actual like biology and physics might come into play. Some things like sure, but like if you're a regular standard transgender person, like a regular typical standard transgender person, it like they don't care about this shit. They really don't care about this shit. I would like you to call me a woman. If not, then it's okay, whatever. I just stay away from you and just won't be cool with you. Like that's it, right? But then like then they'll show you like the crazy transgender people that'll sit there and like or go mad if you don't call them a woman, or you'll have the ones that'll sit there to be and they'll use like the worst looking ones too, like the ones that sit there and like don't put no effort into trying to like fully take that image or portray that image of a woman, right? Like see the congresswoman obviously is sitting there is like doing everything to like present herself as a woman, whereas like they'll show you like some transgender person that just basically like a dude that just put a dress on and then that's it, right? It's so. Or just like it's some like deep bass voice, like just it's not sir, or just some crazy stuff that you just don't see, you just actually don't come across in the public. This isn't real. People don't actually experience this. They just don't. It's just so stupid. It's just so stupid. Like this is not a real problem. They make it to be a real problem. Or they make it seem like it's a problem when it really just truly isn't. Okay, cool. I got more airborne. I want to say I have. Everything looks good to me. Yeah, everything's looking good.
Frustration was, and now they shouldn't have that frustration because now they're in power. But I think the frustration was, for years, they felt like there was a lot of, there's a lack of, I think, common sense is the rhetoric that you're seeing now from the right, that there was a lack of common sense with like Democrat ideology and the things they were pushing through. And trans is just the highest rung of the ladder. So it would start at something like this, and this is what a lot of my friends were hearing. It's like, we don't call people Latinos or Latinas. We call them Latinx. And then you would go to your friends and you'd be like, what do you like? Yo, do y'all want to be called Latinx? And they'd be like, I don't even know what the fuck that is, right? And then you'd go back to your work and be like, yeah, I spoke to some of my Spanish friends that they don't even know what Latinx is. And then the reaction is, how dare you? What are you, some bigot? That's racist. Stop being so insensitive. So immediately you get taken back. You go, okay, I was just asking questions. I spoke to my Spanish friends. They said that they don't even want to be called that. But all right, this kind of feels weird, but I'm not going to push back. Then you find out that like a drag queen is teaching English at your school or something like that, which I know is blown out of proportion, but still you hear a story about it and you're like, you just go into school, you're like, hey, just out of curiosity, why is there like a drag queen like teaching the kindergartners how to read? What is that about? How dare you? What are you, some bigot? But they're a performer. We have performers coming in all the time. Be like, okay, I'm just asking a question. You keep calling me a bigot. And the feeling, the emotional feeling for like the parent or the person in that situation is, hey, this doesn't really make sense. And everybody's kind of pretending. And then the final rung of that ladder is trans women competing in women's sports, right? And I think that not that many people are actually really caring about trans people or thinking about them every single day, but it's like, it's the argument that is infallible. You present it to your friend that is like, staunchly Democratic, you present it to your congressman, you're like, hey, do you think this is unfair? You made me feel like a bigot with the Latinx thing. You made me feel weird about the drag queen thing, but this thing, this is 1 + 1 = 2. And if you refute that, it's actually very comforting for the conservative because you go, oh, this whole time I was being gaslit into thinking I was the crazy person, when in reality, you're not operating on like an honest playing field. You're caught up in the ideology. So I think that's really what it is. So I don't care if some trans person wants me to call them a woman. Like, I'm going to call you a woman. I'm not going to like put my fucking foot down about it.
Andrew, if I told you right now, call me daddy, would you call me daddy?
No.
Why not?
Well, because
call
you're
me
not
daddy,
my dad.
Andrew.
But you're not my dad.
But I want you to call me daddy. I view myself as your daddy.
Well, but you're not my dad.
But you're right. They're not, she's not a man.
What kind of example is that? What kind of example is that? Like I'm trying to say I'm gonna be fair about this, okay? What could I draw that would be a reasonable relationship between a gender, a sex, and a status, right? Or a title or position, right? Because that would be, if I'm being fair about this, having somebody call me daddy would be equivalent to like basically having somebody call me like the CEO whenever I walk inside of like my workplace or something, right? That's just like I'm trying my hardest, and I do not see how that would even be remotely the same. It just doesn't make any sense. I'm just really trying. It really just does not make any sense. No, I can't think of nothing. I really can't think of nothing. I'm trying. I really am trying, but I most certainly cannot actually think of anything. Because it's such a retarded example. It is such a it's such a it's such a stupid example. I don't get it. I really don't get it. Okay, so yeah, there we go. See, I just wanted to make sure this shit was actually coming out, because I was worried for a moment. Like, well, eventually this is gonna run out of ammo, and that's not gonna do me any good.
Man,
But if you,
she's not a woman.
but if
she's
you
a
wanted
man.
me to call you son, I would call you son.
Yeah, I get what you're doing here. You're having fun with it, right?
No, I'm not. It doesn't affect me at all. Calling me daddy
son?
insults my dad.
Yeah, but calling you ma'am insults my intelligence. It insults science. It insults facts. It insults, an actual, you were born a man. You want me to call you a woman because it hurts your feelings?
So this is where I think about, like, and obviously I don't think there's ever going to be like a version of us like getting some understanding of this, but like I think the greater concern is this becoming a social trend, and there being like young influential kids that start making decisions about their body that are irreversible. And as a parent, I obviously have a concern about that, right? Because you start taking these hormones, you start lopping shit off your body, you're not going to get that back. Like, this is like a really dangerous potentially situation. But if you ask me if there are 8 billion people on the planet, right? 8 billion people on the planet, and I see a person born with a foot coming out of their head on Instagram every other fucking day, weird shit happens. Sure. To me, the weirdest shit, body dysmorphia or whatever it is, or gender dysmorphia, like, to me, that's not like unbelievable. If 8 billion people on the planet got their kids born with fucking cancer. Like, there are crazy things that happen in our existence, and that's not even close to one of the craziest.
This is a different story.
This is a different story, because this is not something that happens naturally. This is something that happens 5, 10, 15, 20 years into your life, where you want to play dress up. How many days a year is Halloween? 1 day a year. But you want to play Halloween and dress up every single day, and you want me to pretend that you're a leprechaun or a ghost or a donkey every single day.
We have a disagreement, I think, when it comes to like leprechaun or ghost or daddy or any of those things. I think that we're on the same page.
He makes me call him daddy every single day. It's fine. I do it.
I get it.
But I get emails from daddy, and
I guess what I'm saying is like where this is like a perfect example of like where the conversation gets lost and both sides kind of can't unify. Like another example is even like Doge. Like I don't think that there's any American that is for waste, bloat, and like overspending. Like I don't think any American is like, I believe in that, outside the ones profiting from it, right? But because the issue has become so like antagonistic, now you got people lighting up fucking Tesla dealerships, and it's like, wait, this is supposed to be a bipartisan supported issue. Like we should come together on this and go, hey, let's find the right way to do it. I mean, maybe doing it with the hatchet or whatever Elon and Doge have been doing isn't the best way, but let's find a way to make sure that our government agencies are refined and lean, if you will. I think all Americans can support that. When we get into like the there's a lot of emotional things that are going on here, which I get. There's a lot of like religiosity that informs it. Also, I get that, but the core agreement, like I think it's more about like who is being hurt. Right? I don't want to see these girls compete against these people who are born as men. I don't want to see that. Whether some fucking barista wants to put on makeup and say her name is like Sally, I don't give a fuck. Like I'm not in your life. I don't stay out of mine. That's the way I look about it. When it becomes a social trend and I have to worry about these things with my kid, and the school is told to affirm whatever gender they say, now you're in my life.
How old's your oldest?
I have one kid, 13 months old.
Okay, so when the 13 becomes 13, and conversations at night when you go home changes,
of course,
your level of tolerance for these things will change.
This is where I think it's really important.
So the part for me, like for example, the other day this guy says, I don't give a shit. who cares about this auto pen, whether he signed it or not, and and who cares about Fauci, whether he signed the pardon or not? Adam's saying this, right? I said, okay. So I said, Adam, the reason why you don't care is because you're an anomaly. You don't live the average person doesn't live your life. The average person has a car. This guy's an Uber 24/7, right? He lives a very different life. Okay. No, that's his choice. He chooses to do it. You know, everybody on the outside thinks every day this guy's getting fired. He's been here for God knows how many years now. So that's not the case. We get along. But the point is, what happened during COVID to a lot of parents? They saw that you're like, because we all used to be like, dude, I don't give a shit. I just told you guys a story before going live where I used to go in a club and I'm like, I never gave a shit. Yeah. Do you do your thing? I'm gonna do my thing. We're good. We're totally fine, right? I was hanging out with Frank Sinatra's son. Yeah. So, but that's a joke, folks. Don't go and say Patrick this because that story's he's gonna call and say that's not true. I never hung out with that guy. But the point is, with you age, you get older, and you're like, whoa, I don't know. You're a little okay. Maybe they have a point. I don't know about that. Cross the line, dude. You know what? Here's what we're doing. I'm moving forward. Stay over there. Yeah. I'm not playing your card because the way caving works, caving comes in steps. Before there's a high level of cave, there's 3 levels below it that's an easier cave. Yeah. Once you cave here, you're like, that's not a big deal. Then you cave here. I really don't want to. How it's not a big deal. Then listen, you already caved on okay. And then you're like, dude, I am caved on things that I fully don't agree with. That's what happened with a lot of voters. Yeah. A lot of voters got so caught up. They're like, dude, I'm a John F. Kennedy Democrat. And what the hell is going on with this Democratic Party? I guess I have to kind of vote this way, but I don't agree with this. I don't agree with that. Kind of got lost in translation. To me, I feel like it's a little bit too much of pushing the envelope to expect me to call you a man, expect me to call you a woman. He just dressed up. It's totally fine. I'm going to call you Mr. McBride. It's great to have you.
And he still has his testicle. By the way, and I could see, Andrew, if it was, okay, you went for the gusto. Like, by the way, I was at the mall this weekend. No joke.
With him?
Well, I'm saying, no.
Because you said he saw his testicles.
No, I'm saying.
How do you know he still has
How do you know what's going on below the belt?
I'll bet you any money Sarah McBride still has balls.
How do you know?
I know. His voice is
so
still
you said you were at the mall.
I'm at the mall.
How does Vinny know what's going on between these people?
This is real talk. I told her, I'm walking. I had to call my mom because I was dying laughing. I'm walking out the mall. I told Natalia, and I just look out the corner of my eye. This dark skin, like Latina Asian. I was like, whoa,
Latinx,
beautiful.
Latinx.
And he turns around, and it's a dude.
Gotcha.
And I was like, oh, we had a moment.
They didn't hold you back. Is the real question.
We hooked up in the car. But listen, anyway. So I was like, so my thing is this, bro. You know what it is? Just the laziness of the white trans guys. The white trans men are just lazy, bro. If you're gonna go for the gusto, go for it. Cut everything off, loud everything. Because you know what the problem is, Andrew. We're not saying it what it is. This is a mental disorder. Everybody, we're just going all the way to the finish line. Call me what I want, and that's it. The problem is, bro. They're pretending to be what you want. This is a free country. But to force somebody to agree with your reality is a problem we get. Because think about it. If we didn't nip this in the bud as a country, of course it would get rampant. Are we the gayest we've ever been in the country right now, 2025? 100%.
Yeah.
1 out of 4 high school kids identifies as LGBTQ, whatever the hell. I
really just threw extra vowels in there.
No, I'm just saying there's so many letters, there's so many things. At what point do we have to this is
I want to hear Andrew's argument. I want to see what he's going to say.
So I think that like one of the big concerns is obviously protecting your children, right? And I think that both sides are actually trying to protect children. I think when parents, and you're rightfully concerned, I'm rightfully concerned, is that I wouldn't have control with the ability to protect my child, right? If the school goes, hey, we don't need to ask your parents for you to take hormones, I start going, wait a minute, hold on. That's my child. I want to make the decisions that I think are best for them. And you're getting in the way of that. And I agree with you. That knee-jerk reaction that any parent, like I definitely would feel as a parent, is like, whoa, what the fuck is going on here? Why are you doing stuff with my kid without allowing me? If my kid wants to go to the museum, I got to sign some paperwork so they can go, but not so they can, grow tits. Like it seems obviously like there's this like real emotional reaction that is you want to protect your child. Now, if I'm going to have empathy for the other side, it's somebody who went through that brutal process in their life, and they go, I want to protect a child that might be trans from the horrors that I experienced growing up with people not understanding what this is. I think a lot of these people are well-intentioned, but they have to understand, and maybe one day they'll have kids and they'll get it, how important it is to us to protect our children. And anytime you make me feel even slightly that you could be putting ideas in my kid's head that I don't like, or even removing my autonomy to protect my child, I'm going to respond with a force that you've never seen before in your entire life. And I'm going to be incredibly blunt about it, and I don't care how it makes you feel. When it comes to protecting my child, it doesn't matter how it makes you feel. So you're going to get the harshest, most coarse arguments out of me unless you meet me where I am emotionally. Like, I think anybody that's trying to, for lack of a better, like push trans agenda has to understand what parents might feel before they're putting any sort of legislation out there. And I think there's actually a lack of empathy for the parents. There's a lot for the kids. I think they're actually coming from this place of like, I want to protect these kids. They believe that's their version of protection, but not enough for the parents.
Yeah. I saw a tweet the other day that said, I feel sorry for the parents if a kid who they raise well later on transitions and becomes transgender.
I almost want to bring the AI. You know what? I think what we're going to do is we're going to wrap this up because I'm going to stop it here. I'm going to stop that video there. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to bring the AI up because I'm going to ask, right? Because on one hand, how I feel about that is just that, like, because I think we do a terrible job. We do a terrible job allowing the government or the education system to put themselves in a position that they shouldn't be in, that really should be the parents doing. You know, like the thing was like I'm aware of the instances where I think like the school system, like the child was like it might have been a male. I think it was a boy, and he wanted to like change and be identified as a woman. I forgot what grade school this is. I don't know if this was like middle school or something. And the school had a policy that they would allow the student to do that, and they were forbidden from notifying or letting the parent know, which to me it would just be crazy. That's just like outrageous or outlandish. And like I can understand doing that because like you want to like protect the child, or you don't want the child to be in potential danger. But like realistically, that's not the place of the government or education system. Like I can't think of any circumstance where that would be okay. Oh, you're right. I should actually remove these and put like the faster drills. Yeah. Right. There's no circumstance where that's okay. Right. Because like, you just have to accept that. It's just like, if the child just has like shitty parents, as long as they're not as long as they're not like breaking the law or actually putting the child's life in danger, like it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? That's like saying if if you knew, like beyond a shadow of a doubt, right? Like you verified that like this household was teaching a child to be like be racist, right? There's no legal, there's no intervention at any point that would be appropriate for the school system to interject themselves into, besides just telling the student that that's just wrong, right? So i.e. in the case of like this gender thing, just be like, okay, yeah, like if you want to identify as a woman, sure. But as a courtesy, we obviously we're gonna we'll let the parents know. Hold on, let me see. Sure. Ooh. Almost had me. I thought I was about to die for a second. All right. But right, as far as just like as far as like the amount of intervention, like from the government side, like there's no like that's the only time I'd sit there. I would make that comparison between like gender and like maybe something else, right? Because like as far as like intervention from government, like there's no like interpersonal, like as long as obviously the student themselves isn't doing anything crazy, like in the racist example, right? Then like the shit doesn't matter. Like honestly, like it shouldn't matter. It is what it is. Like just they got shitty parents, right? They're being they're being dealt with a way that that seems sad to you, that you wish wasn't the case. But at the end of the day, it's just it really just it is what it is. There's just nothing you can just do about it. I mean, there's really just nothing you could do about it unless it's a violation of the law, unless it's endangerment of the child's life. There's nothing you could do about it. So like with respect to like sitting there trying to like force or allow the child to be able to do things without any knowledge of the parent, to me would be kind of, yeah, it's just, to me it's kind of crazy. That'd be a bit odd. And then you could probably argue as far as like what's the harm, right? What's the harm of if it was just simply just a name change, like if Bob wanted to be called Sarah going forward, right? Then it's like does it really rise to that level where like it has to be a deal worth telling the parents? And I would sit there and say yes. I would actually sit there and say yes, because like then it would protect the government. I would say it would protect the government. It would protect the government, the school system, for potentially being accused of like maybe like enabling the behavior, because that's what this all like boils down to, right? A parent's biggest fear is that like this is being reinforced by the school system or by the environment that they're in, right? And so like the school system immediately like notifying the shit really hurts because for my brush, the school system immediately notifying that we're going to start calling your child Sarah upon like the child's request, then 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 that's it. Then it just ends right there. And then like whatever the parent chooses to do, it is what it is. Now if the parent sits there and tries to like fight that and say like, no, you will address my child as Bob, right? And starts like mandating that the school calls the child something that the child doesn't want to be called. Now that's where like maybe that can get a little weird. Excuse me. Well, that might get a little that might get a little weird, I guess. But I think but then that's when I'd be like in full support of just being like, after the notification, so like, hey, like notify the parent. This is what the child wants to be called. So like we'll start calling the child that. And that this is going to, and that we have a policy where we'll go by like the child's wishes with respect to their gender, right? We're not going to force anything. We're not going to require anything. If the child wishes to be comfortable and wants that to be how they're addressed, then that's how we'll address them. If you so like there's no there's like that's not up for debate. Like if the parents like, no, I want you to like call my child Bob because that is their name and that's what I want, because then it's like then it gets weird. Like, cause then like I'm starting to think of like nicknames, like how nicknames, like sometimes like children have nicknames they want to be called, right? It's like that, because to me you could probably say that's almost that like as far as the school's concerned, that'd be like really close in line to like what that would how that would actually like come about, right? Like a parent, like if we don't give like the legal control for like a parent to like force a school not to like allow a child to be called their preferred nickname or something, then I don't think like that should apply for gendered names if Bob wants to be called Sarah. So I'm gonna pull up the AI a little bit and see where we go with that, because after that we gotta go to bed, man. It's 2:30. Ugh, God, I'm tired. I'm gonna go to work too, man. What is it? Don't worry, I promise I'm gonna get better at this. Did I finish this? Damn, I finished this. They're kind of thirsty. Yeah, like my thing would be that I'm gonna bring the AI to this. I promise I'm gonna get better at this stuff. It would be more coherent once I stop having technical issues, because it's just I thought I have just enough technical issues. I just stopped caring. I just be like, you know what? I guess it just ain't meant for today. All right. Hey Jeffrey, I want to do the topic I want to debate on is going to be the whole transgender stuff, specifically when it comes to children. Now this is the only one where like I might allow like a nuanced position. Like there's no really clean cut way to sit there and pick one over the other, because like it's so some of the stuff gets so extreme. But for you, actually, as I think about it, I want you to adopt the position of a hardline no, that you won't allow no such transgender laws or rules or stuff when it comes to children, whether that's like surgical, education, whatever it is. Are you able to do that?
Got it. So I'll take the position of being firmly against any transgender-related policies or interventions for children, whether medical, educational, or otherwise. I'll argue that it's not appropriate or safe to allow any such measures for minors. Let me know how you want to kick off the discussion.
Sure. So I want to start off with kicking it in the school setting. So I guess I'll start off with my side on this, right? So in my mind, I think like obviously like policies that are going to mandate that the teachers or the school system withhold any information from the parent is a little crazy. That probably shouldn't be the case. But if I was to sit there and talk about like the other stuff where like, you know, if the student, for example, wanted to be called like whatever name that's opposite their gender, that should be allowed. And even if like the parent was to like maybe want to intervene and be like they don't want their child to be referred to by the name that the child wants to be referred to, I would say that that would be totally fine of the school adopting such a policy where it'd be like the child's choice.
From my perspective, allowing schools to adopt such policies undermines parental rights and creates confusion for children. Parents have the primary responsibility and right to know what's happening with their children. Encouraging kids to adopt different names or identities without parental consent can lead to secrecy and mistrust. Schools should focus on education, not social experiments, and any major decisions about a child's identity should involve the parents. Kids are still developing and need guidance from their families, not just their schools.
I have to actually stop for a second. It's like, you know, you do make some good points. Because this is what I argue about like how the parents, like we should also kind of be forcing parents to adopt a more like hands-on approach or control on their children. So like the school could only like adopt or do so much. Okay, but let me try something here. Okay, like so I kind of agree with what you're saying thus far, but like with respect to names, is it truly just that bad? Like, because in my mind, I would actually sit there and say that the naming issue would just be the same as like nicknames, would it not be? Like conceptually, with respect to, I guess like you could say like legal impact for the school, that if we wouldn't allow a parent to dictate what's the nickname that the child wants to be referred to in school, then like why would it matter? Why would the same thing matter for like gendered names? I'm just trying to understand like what is it about just being referred to as like a female name versus a male name that would be like so damning with respect to any of the downsides that you presented, like mistrust and things like that. I on one hand I can kind of understand what you're saying about like the child like holding secrets and stuff, but then on the other hand I could like that that's obviously that's not something that the school should be concerned of, right? Because like you just said, right, the school shouldn't be involving themselves in the personal matters of the child and the parent, right? As far as the school's concerned, the child just wants them to call them like a different name than like whatever is their standard name is, right? Whether like the child has like full trust of their parents or is hiding stuff from the parents or not is none of the business of the school system.
The difference is that a nickname is generally a casual preference, while adopting a name associated with a different gender can signal a significant identity shift that might have broader social and psychological implications. Schools allowing this without parental involvement can undermine the parent-child relationship. It's not just about a name, it's about a child's developing sense of self. Parents need to be part of that journey. Keeping them in the loop ensures that children receive consistent guidance and support. Plus, schools shouldn't be making decisions that could have long-term impacts on the child's identity without parental consent.
Okay, but so help me understand. Like, what is it about that is so damning, like from the school's point of view, that wouldn't just be the same case with anything else? Like if, like for example, like if the student I'm sitting here. I'm really trying to sit here and like be fair about this. Like, if we can both agree that schools shouldn't involve themselves in the personal life of the student or the relationship that they have with their parent, right? Under any circumstances, why would this be any different outside of just a notification, right? I could sit there and agree, right, that this shouldn't be withheld from the parent as far as maybe notifying them that the child wants to be considered a different gender. But then outside of that, there shouldn't be any issue with then trying to compel the school to either forcefully adopt with the child's name or not, right? It should just be like the case that the school would want to just do whatever comforts the child the most. So if the child wants to just be, addressed by their opposite sex name, then that's just what happens.
Even if we agree that schools shouldn't interfere in personal matters, allowing a child to be addressed by a different gendered name can have broader implications. It's not just about a nickname, it's about potentially reinforcing a significant identity shift that might conflict with parental views or long-term well-being. Parents should be the primary decision makers in guiding their child's identity development, and schools adopting these practices without parental consent could lead to more conflicts and confusion. The school's role should remain educational, not stepping into areas that are fundamentally the domain of the family.
So I think like the point of disagreement is just like how much of an involvement that would be the case of the student being or I'm sorry, of the school involving itself in that personal matter of the child, right? Like just I could if the school was sitting there was like reinforcing this like with I don't know, like actual like curriculum or things like that, right? Then that's just one thing. Or maybe even like things like there could be some arguments where I think there's like that one case of like somebody who does like drag shows and stuff, like coming in as for career there, I guess to read a story to children stuff. Like you could probably like argue like stuff like that could be potentially influencing or like pushing like ideas and stuff that would be against like what parents would want to expose their children, especially at whatever age it is. But again, right, but would we equate, are you saying that like that action right there of something like maybe a drag show person being there to read children a story, that we would equate that to just simply calling a child by the name that they prefer with respect to like the involvement of the school in the child's personal development life with their parents?
I see the distinction you're making. While calling a child by a preferred name may seem minor, it can still be a step toward affirming a significant identity change. This might not be on the same level as bringing in external influences like drag shows, but it still sets a precedent for schools to be involved in personal identity issues. That involvement could undermine parents' authority and create inconsistencies in how children are guided. Even if it starts with something as simple as a name, it opens the door to more significant interventions, which is why many believe these matters should remain firmly in the realm of parental decision-making. Schools should be careful not to take steps that might lead to larger identity changes without parental involvement.
Okay, so then let's actually shift this a little bit then. All right. So what would be the argument then if the child is an orphan? They don't have parents, right? So they're in the custody of the state. So they're attending school and they don't have parents, right? So tell me, like, how is that seen, and what's the approach to that would be any different?
In the case of an orphan or a child under state custody, decisions about their identity would still need a responsible guardian or appointed advocate. It's not just the school's role to make these decisions in isolation. The state or guardians would step in to ensure that any significant changes in the child's identity are carefully considered and guided. the principle remains that major identity decisions shouldn't be left solely to the child or the school. There should always be a responsible adult involved to help navigate these complex issues, ensuring the child's best interests are prioritized. Schools alone shouldn't make these calls, regardless of the family situation.
Okay, so so what about the case then where the guardian, so like whatever is the appointed advocate for the child, for the orphaned, says yeah, it's fine, right? So then are you saying that at that point then it's not a problem, and then this ceases to become an issue, right? So then that the only issue is just if the advocate or say parent says no, we don't want our child to be addressed by that name. But again, right, we hit an issue where like we have to pick one side or the other, right? Because you can't sit there and just have it to where we have one child that sits there and like they have a parent that allows them to be identify whatever name that makes them feel most comfortable in the school system, and then at the same time we have another child in this exact same circumstance, the same classroom and everything, that has a parent that just feels otherwise about it. What
I'm
would
sorry,
be your take on that?
but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice. You can switch to standard now to keep chatting.
There's such a thing as advanced voice. I didn't even know there's such a thing. Hold on. What? Switch to standard voice. Your advanced voice limit resets to the SPM, but great now. Or switch to standard voice. Standard voice. Real quick, Jeffrey, can you tell me the difference between the standard voice and the advanced voice for ChatGPT?
Yeah, for sure.
I think it might just be voices. I think it's just voices.
Basically, the standard voice for ChatGPT is a little more basic. It's clear and understandable, but it's not super dynamic. It kind of sounds more like a regular automated voice you'd hear on a customer service line. The advanced voice, though, that's way more natural. It sounds smoother, has way better emotion, tone shifts, and even little pauses that make it feel way closer to how real people talk. It can sound casual, serious, excited. It flows way better depending on the vibe of the convo. You thinking about switching it up?
No, okay, thank you. I don't. Let's go back to our conversation now. Going back to the orphaned example. So, do you think it'd be okay then to like operate a school environment where there's some children that allow their parents to let the school address them by like whatever name that they want, and then like the same student that's sitting right next to them have parents that doesn't allow their child to be addressed by the name they want, like with respect to like the whole gender identity thing, and these two students then sitting there as the school treat them differently, where like the teachers of the school system sits there and addresses the child as they want to be addressed, it that makes them feel comfortable, but whereas the other child is just it is what it is.
Right? So, from the perspective I'm taking, yeah, that's completely fine. It's about respecting parental rights first. If one set of parents consents and another set doesn't, the school should honor that. Life's not always about perfect equality in every situation. Parents have authority over their kids' upbringing. One kid's experience might feel different than another's, but that's a natural part of how families and values vary. The school's job isn't to make everything feel identical. It's to respect what each family has decided for their child. Keeping that boundary clear is what maintains trust between schools and parents.
Okay. I mean, I would agree with you that that parents should have the ultimate control when it comes to like a child's upbringing. So I I'll concede that to you there, but I'm still trying to understand why is it considered so deeply involving to stop addressing a child by the name that they want, where we wouldn't give that same where we wouldn't even care about it the same, like when it comes to nicknames. Like, yes, I understand, one's associated with gender and one isn't, but that doesn't but even then, that's not even a really good argument, because then some nicknames could be I don't want to say offensive or derogatory, but some nicknames can be outright kind of odd. But we, again, right, we still don't put so much emphasis on parental control with something as trivial as that, right? I would sit there and say that, from the perspective of whether this is a trivial issue or a novel issue, I would sit there and say that just names is just a trivial issue that shouldn't even really be up for debate with respect to what the child wants when it comes to whatever name they want to be called.
I hear you, but here's the thing. When a kid wants to change their name tied to gender identity, it's not seen as trivial because it signals a much deeper shift. It's not like calling someone champ or shorty as a joke. In a lot of parents' eyes, it's the first step towards socially transitioning, which can eventually lead to medical or legal changes down the line. So, from that view, it's not just about the name, it's about schools silently affirming a whole new identity without the parents even knowing. That's why it triggers way more debate and way stronger feelings than a normal nickname ever would. They see it as the start of a bigger, more serious process that parents believe they should guide, not the school.
So, okay, so what, I'm gonna make this a little bit more concise then. So, are you saying that the act of the school addressing a child by the name that the child wants, this is the school affirming and taking a taking direct control of a child's upbringing with respect to social, to transitioning their gender in the public space?
Yeah, that's exactly how a lot of people frame it. When the school uses a name tied to a different gender without parental involvement, it's not seen as neutral. It's seen as the school stepping into the role of affirming a gender transition. Even if the school thinks it's just being supportive, in the parents' eyes, it's the institution taking an active role in shaping a child's identity, something most parents feel should be their responsibility, not the state's or the school's. That's why it's treated way more seriously than just respecting a nickname. It's viewed as the start of a whole new path that parents didn't authorize.
Okay. I I'm kind of, I think it's because it's also getting late. We'll stop the debate there. Thank you so much for bearing with us. I think, like I said, this will be a little bit easier next time as we iron out the last itty bit, I guess, of the technical issues that we're having. Things should be just about mostly there, no issues, nothing I'm seeing. But we'll pick up this debate on a different topic, tomorrow, or technically later today. Is that all right?
Sounds good. I'm glad we were able to get a strong session in, and I'll be ready whenever you are to pick it up again. Just hit me up whenever you're ready to dive back into it.
The thing is I don't even see the setting for that, that whole advanced standard voice thing, because I would rather just have the standard voice thing so that I just don't have no interruptions. But I guess it's whatever. Can I click on view tools? Nope. Can I, if I press and hold that, can I right click? Can't right click it. Yeah, I was just saying, I don't know, is it this plus button here? Upload from computer, take screenshot. I'm just running through customize ChatGPT real quick. What do you do? Advanced. Oh, you can control what capabilities. Oh, there it is. Advanced voice. One natural. I'm gonna turn that off for right now. Maybe someday I'll cut it on, but for now, I don't need to bother with it. All right. Well, let me close this, and let me. Okay. Yeah. Oh, that's that. No, that was I want to say that was pretty good. Yeah, man, making this these surge smelters about to be up. These about to be a pain because I'm gonna need at least 2 of them, and I cannot remember for the life of me to set up a half of this. I might not even put it there. I might actually put it over here. Yeah, I think I should. But anyway, well, that's that, right? So that was and my computer just forced restarts, huh? Let me cancel. No? Won't even let me cancel. And this is what it looks like when the government takes control of your decisions when you don't want it to. That's funny. All right, whatever. Can I see? I can't even. All right, whatever. Let me just let me close down this tablet here. Make sure it just gets an update and shut down in. Okay, cool. And then I'm gonna move my mouse onto my desktop computer here. Oh. That taken care of. I bet you my desktop computer probably has those updates. No, it does not. Bastards. Oh, yeah, let me save and quit my game. And this is why I sit there and I like to I like to play the games off my phone than on my computer. It's wild. But I guess the argument could be made that if I was doing it on my computer though, it probably wouldn't shut it down. Let me hit a check for updates. No? So it just won't. Okay. There is an update available for my desktop. I'm gonna just go ahead and install. Okay. Well, now that's that. I guess that's it. Look at that. We are now calling it a day. Well, this was fun. I will have this more put together next time. But with that being said, you guys take care, and we will add a little bit more oomph to these streams once I stop being drained of my soul with dealing with these technical problems that I'm having. We'll stream again tomorrow. Will also be politics, and we'll certainly go from there. Sorry, I got distracted. I thought it was gonna cut on just enough time, but I guess not. Yeah. Okay, cool. I have everything done now. All right. All right. So you guys take care. We'll be streaming again next time. Later.
Will Almighty ever stop being trash? Can he ever not be sorry? Find out next time on Almighty's stream.